we destabilized a lot of the Middle East, that forced people to believe that another act of violence was the only response. And again, just like I said before, our responsibility is...
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Glad you guys stopped by. We cannot have this socialism go on in America. It has to come to an end, you guys, on the real. We cannot have this. This is not how America is built. It's built on capitalism and Christianity, period. And that's how we got here, 250 years. We can go further doing the same thing on the real. Let's continue.
To getting rid of those conditions that lead to violence in the first place. Abolishing ICE is just one step, right? Democrats have been in power multiple times over the last few decades and did nothing to address the immigration reform that we actually need.
Increased expenditures, increased spending.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think there has to be an immediate pathway for every single undocumented immigrant that's here in this country today that does not require them to shell out thousands of dollars to go through the process, for it to take decades at a time to be able to get to citizenship, an immediate pathway to citizenship, and then just
By the way, as an immigrant from Ethiopia, how does that affect your view of immigration policy in the country?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm around the same age my dad was when he first immigrated to this country on a diversity visa lottery program.
Wow.
And it's exactly what it sounds like. It was a lottery. So the only thing separating me and a young woman who's in the northern region of Ethiopia that directly experienced, genocide and a lot of really horrific sexual violence that came out of that war is luck. That's it. And so when I think about, my economic philosophies, my governing philosophies, it's based in this idea that I fundamentally believe that no matter where you're born, what family you're born into, what body you're born into, that you are deserving of basic dignities, and making sure that we are fighting for those things. And
the results, and we can now make a projection that Kiros is going to win this seat, which means that the Democratic Socialist is defeating this longtime incumbent and will now move on to the general election. Lynn, it's been quite a week. This is the third incumbent for the Democrats in 1 week to lose their seat. Two of them in New York last week, and now this one.
Yeah.
Boy. So we got to talk about yet again another Democrat suffering a humiliating defeat at the hands of the radical far-left socialists that they decided to get in bed with because they want to stop Trump. And now that monster that they created is eating the Democrat Party, including incumbents who have been in Congress forever. Okay, that's what we have to talk about here out of Colorado, a race that the mainstream liberal media and everybody was watching, because everybody was wondering, okay, is this only something happening in deep blue states like New York, right? Deep blue cities like New York City, or is this socialist takeover of the Democrat Party nationwide? And it seems like this race right here suggests that the socialist takeover is nationwide, okay, which is devastating news for Hakeem Jeffries.
There seems to be growing concern within the New York delegation that your endorsement doesn't hold the weight that it once did, that the mayors may perhaps carry more. Do you feel that's fair?
So there they go. I'm glad this is happening to they dumbass. Orange man bad. They went so far left, you know what I'm saying? Now it's going to be a hard time coming back. But us MAGAs, us Republicans, you know what I'm saying? We got this, man. America's not dead. America is safe. MAGA is not dead. We love America. We're Americans, period. These guys don't live in America. They shouldn't be in Congress. They shouldn't be in power. These people don't love America at all. They don't respect the Constitution. They fake it till they made it. They faked it till they made it. Now they on bullshit. Crazy ass agendas that is not American. This is not what I voted for. This is what I'm living for. 4th of July is around the corner. 250, you know what I'm saying, years. Based on Christianity and capitalism. We got to keep it going. Yeah, King Jeffrey, you idiots. Look what you guys, you know what I'm saying, did. What up? We can't have this socialist stuff going on, man. We can't have the socialist takeover. We cannot let that happen. We got to keep fighting as Americans. On the real.
New York delegation has articulated that, since you're referencing growing
Conversations on
concern?
background, so just as I would not.
So you don't have a name?
Well, I'm going to extend them the same courtesy that I would everybody else, but this question is about you.
Yeah. Well, you asked me a question making reference to particular members, but then you didn't cite a member.
Right, because they're conversations on background. But what is your response to that?
Why would America
I
say
don't have a
America? You know what I'm
response to
saying?
that, actually.
Y'all see this? Y'all saying that King Jeffrey, he's stupid looking now. He like, damn, yeah, you let that happen. Now they went too far. Y'all was saying so much about trying to get rid of Trump, and all Trump want to do and is give the American people back. All Trump want to do is give the American people back their America. Give us back America. Not the government, but the people. We the people. You know what I'm saying? Not we the government. We the people. Now let's go ahead and, man, come on, we gotta vote, you guys. We gotta vote these people. I know we going to work. I know we got jobs. We gotta go out and vote early, y'all. We gotta vote early because these people don't got no jobs. They out here protesting. You know what I'm saying? On EBT Section 8, they got time to go out here and do monkey ball. We gotta get out there and vote red. On the real. Educate these people. We cannot let this happen with socialism.
Because I think that it's, something that has not come up in any of the conversations that we've had.
In this race, Colorado District 1, we have Milot Kiros, okay, who is a far-left radical immigrant from Ethiopia, who believes in the most Looney Tunes things that you could think of. Yeah, this woman just took out a Democrat incumbent, Deunta Lockett, who, again, has been in Congress for over a decade. Take a look.
We're actually updating the website right now. I wrote all of our policy page a year ago now, but we're updating it this week. And some of the things that we're adding in, there's also a trans bill of rights. I think we have to be so forceful and clear and aggressive in our protection and our advocacy for the trans community, especially for trans kids. In Colorado, we are seeing a couple of ballot measures that are going to be coming up.
They should not be that long in Congress. You know what I'm saying? Joe Biden, 50 years. So this man never worked a real job. These people in Congress, that's been in Congress over a decade, never worked a real job. They never been out here with us in these streets. These people are spoiled on BS. All they really care about is their student loans they got going on. They don't care about us, man, at all. And I wish people wake up and see that. It's not about color. It's about this is people, period. People are corrupt. Some people out here are corrupt and they are in power. And we voted them in. Some people did. Some of us did. We got to do better with these votes. Can't vote because of color. Can't vote because orange man bad. We got to do better. Facts over feelings.
That are just horrific and are really going to be, if they pass,
Chinese Communist Party,
absolutely destructive for young trans kids. And it is, I think, incumbent upon us to be proactive in this fight. I think we've been on the defensive, and I think there are Democrats that have even considered abandoning our solidarity and our advocacy for the gay community, particularly for trans people and trans kids. And for that, I would say that you're not a Democrat. You're not. And to be fair, I got a lot of criticisms for Democrats, period. But at the end of the day, this is a party that claims to fight for the equality and the advancement for every single person, regardless of their race and their sex and their gender and all of these things. And so if that's really what we're standing for, then this is our opportunity to show up and to actually protect this community, and to do it loudly and proudly and boldly is the bare minimum, I think, that's required in this moment.
Yeah, so what I find to be hilarious about this socialist takeover of the Democrat Party is, first and foremost, they deserve it, okay? Because Trump derangement has led them down this path, right? They decided to get in bed with these lunatics because they want to stop Trump, right? Because they want to keep their power short term, right? That is why they did it, okay? And because of that...
Yep, that's the big difference between Democrats and Republicans. See, Republicans, we believe in the long term, generational, you know what I'm saying, wealth and longevity. Democrat Party wanted now and now and now and now. And we should get it now that I'm thinking about the consequences down the line. Like, okay, we got it down. What about down the line consequences? What's the backup plan? What's plan B and C? They just went right now. No backup plan, just blind. Just go with it. That's crazy, man.
The long-term consequences are that Democrats are actually going to lose their party, because this is not a big tent movement, okay? That's what these establishment Democrats don't understand. The socialists don't want a big tent. They only want people who agree with them 100%, right? If you don't agree with them 100% on all of their radical policies that they want, you're not a Democrat. They are literally redefining and changing what it means to be a Democrat, and the establishment Democrats don't fit that, right? Unless you agree.
Yeah, you got James Carville, he upset. You know what I'm saying? You got Bill Maher, you know what I'm saying? All these moderate Democrats, they pissed off because there's socialist stuff going on. I love everybody. I respect everybody's beliefs, their religions, and all of that. But this is America. That doesn't work here in America. They shouldn't even be here in America. If you guys don't like America, go over there where y'all from and pray over there and do all that trash. This is America. Don't disrespect us like that. We can't go over there and do all that, what they doing to us, the Muslims. You know what I'm saying? We can't go over and do all that. They'll behead us. They'll kill us. They'll take us out. But they want to come here in America with the bullshit. No respect for the Constitution at all. And this whole birthright citizen shit is bogus as hell too. Now you want to have all these immigrants come over here randomly, drop their kids off, and then leave or get deported, but their kids can stay. That's not cool. You know what I'm saying? They come here the right way. All these people since generations been coming here the right way, vetted the right way, and they earning their money the right way. But y'all want people that done nothing for America come over here and just get nothing done and just live up it up? That's crazy. That's crazy. We got to get off our ass, man, with these EBTs and Section 8s and get back to working. That's the problem. For the last 60, 70 years, our black community is stuck on this welfare shit. They don't want to do better. You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong with having our babies, but damn, make sure the father is around or your career path is making sense with it. Just having 8 kids, 8 different baby daddies, that's not cool. That's not how you're supposed to live. I'm not here to judge nobody. I got 4 boys of my own and different baby mamas, and I've been married twice. I'm still married now, my second marriage, but it's better and greater. But we can't just live on the generational welfare BS. Expect things to get better. On the real, living on EBT in Section 8, and you want America to be better. That's not going to work. You're not putting in no work. You're not putting in no work, and you want to do better. Crazy.
The socialist 100%, which at that point would not make you a Democrat, right? Would make you a socialist. But the socialists are basically saying that the modern day Democrat has to be a socialist in order to actually be a Democrat, right? They are literally taking over the party and changing what it means to be a Democrat. It's fascinating. It really is. So without further ado, let's learn a little bit more about these election results, because this is bad news for Hakeem Jeffries. It's over, right? I think that the takeover is in full swing. There are no questions anymore about what's happening to the Democrat Party.
A lot of people who thought that the New York race was a standout by virtue of how liberal New York is, because in those races in New York, when a Democratic Socialist beat an incumbent, those seats are not going to change hands. It doesn't affect the balance of power in the House of Congress. In this particular case, it's less obvious. When you get to points further west out in the country where the Democratic Socialists do not have the same presence that they have, this becomes a bit more of a question as to the direction of the Democratic Party. Now, a lot of critics have come out and said these kinds of things are dangerous for the party come November, because it'll be used by Republicans to suggest, as Donald Trump has, that the communists are taking over, the socialists are taking over.
Well, it's not a suggestion anymore, right? That's reality, right? That's what's happening. These people are communists. They're socialists. I mean, you listen to them, they tell you straight up, they're communists.
I will always and consistently, if given an option to vote for somebody to my left, I will vote for that person, because it's not like the people to my left are going to get their entire slate of policy ideas implemented. That's not how the system works. What we need is people to my left to be in power so they can drag the Overton window back to sanity. The right has moved off the spectrum to the right. Okay? And that's made it so the center has gone right as well. We need people who are to the left of me to drag us back to sanity in this country. And so I love it that it appears to be the case that Daria Liza is actually like a legit communist. But you know what? God fucking bless. I love it. I'm not that. I'm more of a social democrat or a democratic socialist, depending on the day and depending on my mood. But God bless that there's some people to my left who are saying some shit like this, because it's only through pulling the spectrum back to the left that we will ever get anything even remotely resembling social democracy and improving the lives of regular people across this country.
Committed.
Yeah. So Graham Plattner is a communist. You have the woman out in New York. I don't really know her name. I'm calling her DAC, right? DAC. It went from AOC to DAC, right? DAC, she's a communist. This woman, a communist, right? I mean, they have open communists, right, running and winning elections in the Democrat Party. It's insane. It really is. It's absolutely insane.
Over. But there's a lot more nuance to why some of these democratic socialists are actually winning. There are a few things at play here. Number one, outside money. What tends to happen is democratic socialists share the view of many younger Democrats about U.S. support for Israel, and what tends to happen is the incumbent or the person running against them ends up getting the support of AIPAC and its affiliated groups. So that's one of the things at play. The other one is generational. As I said, Milat Kiros has not been alive for as long as Deunta Lockett has been the member of Congress. We've seen that in various races. We saw it in New York's District 13, where Adriano Espaillat lost to a much younger challenger. We saw it in Texas, where Al Green lost to a much younger challenger. There's also this internal debate about moderates versus progressives. Obviously, those who are members.
Yep. Happy MAGA Monday. We are some MAGA Monday. Happy MAGA Day, period. Happy MAGA. Happy MAGA. Yes, yes, yes.
Of or supported by Bernie Sanders or Zoran Mamdani or the Democratic Socialists of America are progressives. They're on the left side of the party versus the moderates. Although I will say Deunta Lockett is not thought of as anything other than a progressive. And then fundamentally, there's this fighters versus folders idea. And that may be a lot of the frustration amongst people in the Democratic Party who feel that some of their leadership and their House endorsed candidates, remember, every incumbent in the Democratic Party is supported by the Democratic Party by default. That is a position that some Democrats feel the party shouldn't hold. They want the person who they think is going to fight most for them to be elected. The other thing is the Democratic Socialists of America, as part of the Democratic Party, when they're running as Democrats, talk a lot about affordability, which is it is the number one concern that people express right now. The dissatisfaction with Donald Trump as president, the dissatisfaction numbers are highest as it comes to his handling of the economy. The economy and affordability were central campaign issues for Donald Trump, upon which he has not delivered. In some part, that's because of the tariffs that he imposed. In large part, it's because of this war with Iran that nobody was particularly looking for, but that increased the price of fertilizer, diesel, and gasoline. So Democratic Socialists do tend to have policies that are very directly related to housing affordability, to subsidies, to child care, universal health care, funding of health care, higher minimum wages, and those types of very explicit policies, including policies around the climate, that incumbent Democrats, some feel, have not leaned into as heavily as others. In this particular case, though, I will say Deunta Lockett has not been a target of people who have not thought she's progressive enough, but Milat Kiros is definitely a lot more progressive. Milat Kiros, by the way, is an immigrant to the United States. She was born in Ethiopia and immigrated to the United States, grew up in the Denver area, but here we have 78% of the vote in, and the Associated Press is able to call her as the victor in that race.
Yeah. So you see that, you heard that. So now let's listen to what the radical lunatic has to say during her victory speech.
All right.
Milat Kiros will be speaking momentarily at her victory party tonight in Denver. The 29-year-old corporate attorney turned barista has defeated Democratic Congresswoman Deunta Lockett, ending one of the
corporate attorney turned barista. How did that happen? Right? What the corporate attorney turned barista? Okay, is a failure on a part of the Democrat Party, right? Is that just like a thing, right? Like, failing down and then running for office, right? Is that a thing? It seems as if that's a thing.
longer careers in Democratic political history. DeGette held that seat for 15 terms and rarely had a challenger. This year, Malak Qiros pulled off what was long thought to be impossible, and she has changed Denver's Democratic Party structure and Colorado politics in doing so. Let's listen in.
Tonight, this victory belongs to every single one of you. Denver voters of all ages, of all races, of all religions sent a clear message. We will not wait.
It's insane, you guys.
We will not wait to take the fight to Donald Trump and the oligarchy. We will not wait.
Here we go.
We will not wait to abolish ICE and pass Medicare for all.
Are you serious, y'all?
We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and APAC. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
It's really crazy how a conflict between two other countries has so much of an effect on American politics. These people are literally running on, well, we got to stop the genocide happening in Palestine, which I thought that was over, right? But apparently not. But again, it shows you how this grift works, right? It's never going to be over no matter what, right? Because again, if it's ever over, right, if the genocide is ever over, then, you know, they're not going to have anything to boo-hoo on and cry about, right? So I want you guys to understand how this works. These people are radically left. They believe in the most far-left positions that you can imagine. Again, they're flat-out communists, and they're winning elections. They're taking over the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is now the Socialist Democrat Party. It's the Socialist Party.
It's just a socialist party. You know what
they want to turn us into Europe.
They're just socialists.
Again, just look at the people who are winning these races, okay? It looks a whole lot like what we see happening in the UK.
They always
okay?
angry.
These people want to point to the Scandinavian countries, right, as the model. That's not the model. That's not where we're headed. We can't be these Scandinavian countries. Even if we wanted to, we could not be like those countries. But what we actually would be like, okay, is France, the UK, like I said, those Western European countries. Yeah, we look more like that, okay? And that's not what I want, right? Nobody should want that for this country, but that is the direction that we're headed in. If these individuals continue to win, okay, especially if they start winning general elections, right? Yeah, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a huge problem. And it's something that Republican voters have to be aware of, right? These people who are, you know, on the horseshoe right, right? Who also, you know, seem to be flirting with getting in bed with these far left lunatics because of, you know, Israel and stuff like that. Well, yeah, this is what you're signing up for, right? You're signing up for communism, right? That's what you sign up for when you get in bed with these individuals. I could never make an alliance with these individuals over some foreign country. I just wouldn't do it, right? It's not worth it. Again, these are communists. At the heart of their ideology is Marxism, right? That's the heart of it. So, you know, I mean, there are some very disturbing things happening in American politics. And I know that I laugh about it, that I try to, you know, make a joke out of it, but it actually really is serious. Like, it's very serious. It's very concerning. Right now, okay, we're at the beginning of it, right? But it's something that is progressing to the point where it can't be ignored. And you see...
Right. Anything with the government is about control. That's all it is about. It's not about helping the people. It's about them staying in power and making them look good. They don't care about us as people, man, when it comes to these people in government. Not all of them, but some of them are. Like I said, I respect Iran. I respect all the countries. It's just a government is a piece of shit. The people cool. It's the government. You know what I'm saying? The government is a piece of shit. And ours can do 100% better as well. But we can't keep on fighting each other, inside each other, as far as this Democrat Republican stuff when we got socialism going on. Muslims trying to take over. That's not cool, man. No way. No way.
that is happening, and it's not just in New York anymore. It is happening now in Colorado, which again suggests that this is a nationwide thing and it's going to continue to happen, which means that Democrats are going to feel a whole lot of pressure to move far left, right? So it's either go far left or get kicked out of the party. Those are the options. Those are the options. And this is why you're saying individuals like Gavin Newsom come out and take far left positions, because he sees where the winds are blowing, and we know that Gavin sways wherever the wind is blowing, right?
Right.
However he can get power. He's like, let me do that. Let me get on board with this. Let me get on board with that, right? He does whatever he believes. Okay, he needs to do. He says whatever that he needs to say in order to get power, right? So you're going to see a lot more of this, and the Democrat primary going into 2028. Essentially, it's going to be about who can be the
about this. So it is not a surprise, Pamela, that he has lost to this case. We just got the physical copy of it, so we'll look at who said what, but we know this was authored by the Chief Justice, John Roberts. This is the last opinion of the term, arguably one of the most significant, but I really just want to emphasize that it's notable that they have rejected President Trump on this, because really most presidents, most of what they've been able to do or have attempted to do has been through executive order, because Congress is not really able to do anything on immigration, but this is a check on his executive power.
Well, Diane, the fact that there is a dissent speaks to exactly what Devin was just referring to, that this is remarkable in the sense that it is surprising at all, which is to say that a rule that has been the rule since 1868, a Supreme Court precedent that has been on the books since 1898, was a question at all, says a lot about the degree to which, often the formalists use the phrase the Overton window. You can just say the level of expectation in America has shifted significantly when a question that is that settled, that had been the status quo for 127 years, was nonetheless an open question. And the idea that there's a dissent when we're talking about an amendment, in essence, to the 14th Amendment, there's a process to amend the Constitution, and that process is not via an executive order. So the fact that there is a dissent is, I think, telling as to just how far the court and the country has moved.
I guess I have to accept it's the Supreme Court, so I'll accept. I think it's very bad for our nation. We're the only nation that does it. No other nation does that birthright citizenship. No, not even close. Some did it, they ended it. It's tremendously destructive. It's extremely costly. I don't know, it's up to them. But in terms of for the good of the country, it'd be great if they didn't allow it. It would be great. But I can't tell you, the Slaughter case was the big case today. That was really a big case because it gave strength to presidents and strength to the presidency. A very important case. It's been going on for almost 100 years. Think of that. And this was the ruling that really topped everything.
Boy. So we got to talk about some really, 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 really bad news. Okay. And
yeah, the Supreme Court is something else. I'm glad they banned men and women's sports. You know what I'm saying? They stopped that from going on. But this whole birthright citizen, you know what I'm saying? That's not cool. You can't just come to America, have a baby, and then all of a sudden they a citizen. Damn, really? No, that's not cool, man. That's not how that shit works. That's not.
I cannot sugarcoat just how devastating this ruling is from the Supreme Court on birthright citizenship. Okay, President Trump, via executive order, attempted to have birthright citizenship struck down, aka anchor babies. This idea that you can just come into the country, you can cross the border legally. Okay, you have no real allegiance to this country, right? And your kids can be American citizens, right? Automatically, just because they were born in the United States, okay, geographically speaking. And you could, theoretically just go back to your country, right? So you can cross the border, have a kid, the kid is an American citizen, go back to your country that you actually owe allegiance to. And your kid enjoys all the rights and freedoms and benefits of being an American citizen, right? It is insane to think about. We are one of the only countries in the world that actually does this, right? And again, I was hoping that the Supreme Court would at the very least open up a pathway for this to be done via Congress, but we didn't get that, okay? Which is why this is so devastating, because as I outlined yesterday, I did not expect the Supreme Court to actually outright overturn birthright citizenship, but again, I did expect them to weaken it, to open up a pathway, okay, to potentially have it struck down or to get rid of it via legislation, and we didn't get that either. And I want to talk about it because, again, this is really, really, really devastating, and I can't even sugarcoat just how disappointed I am in this decision, but let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, we have a 5-4 split decision. You have Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett joining the liberal justices in upholding birthright citizenship, but it's nuanced, and I want to talk about some of the nuances. But first, I want to play this clip summarizing this decision and the conservative justices that dissented, Alito and Clarence Thomas, their reasoning for why the majority is wrong. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll the clips.
And it's a big one. It has to do with birthright citizenship. It was an executive order that President Trump, on day one of his second term in January 2025, signed the executive order. It was immediately challenged, and now we can tell you that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump's order to limit birthright citizenship. Shannon, we have talked for some time about the president feeling that he would not win on this one. The question is, why not?
Okay. Right off the bat, it says children born in the United States to parents unlawfully or temporarily present are, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment's Citizenship Clause. So look how this broke down. As we expected, the Chief Justice wrote this opinion. Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson joined. Jackson has a concurring opinion in which Sotomayor joins. Justice Kavanaugh files an opinion concurring in the judgment and dissenting in part. The dissent comes from Justice Thomas. He is joined by Gorsuch, Alito, and then Justice Gorsuch apparently has his own dissenting opinion. So it is what we expected after the arguments here, and it looks like a bit of a split, but enough of a plurality coming together to say that the executive order that the president issued very quickly upon taking office is no good, and that if people are here, subject to the jurisdiction thereof includes people who are here illegally. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice Roberts says this: citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. Talking about the 14th Amendment, the framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. That's a quote, and it looks like it's a quote back to some of the legislative debate about this in Congress. He says we keep that promise today.
Back to Shannon Bream for the view from Justice Thomas, who was a dissenter here. Shannon.
Yeah, in his dissent, he gets to that point, Bill, that you're making there. The 14th Amendment was enacted in the wake of the Civil War, quote, with the one pervading purpose of securing equal citizenship for the freed slaves. He writes, it was enacted, as Justice Harlan wrote, to secure to a race recently emancipated the civil rights that other citizens enjoyed. So Thomas has always been about that was the purpose of the 14th Amendment. He goes on to say that the court, meaning the majority now, has repurposed the 14th Amendment to protect its own set of preferred rights that the Reconstruction Congress never contemplated and that cannot find support in the text. Today, the court does so by recognizing a constitutional right to citizenship for the children of all foreign birth tourists and illegal aliens. He uses very specific language there. Again, Justice Thomas adhering and agreeing with the government's argument, which they made here very passionately, that the 14th Amendment was about protecting the children of freed slaves and not what we've come to understand it as. You see his language there. He mentions birth tourism. It came up in the arguments, and clearly that's a very big concern of the dissenters. We also have dissents by Justice Alito and others, so we'll read those as well.
Back to Shannon, who's got more yet again. Shannon.
All right, this comes from Justice Alito, who brought this up during the arguments. This is his separate dissent. He said the court's interpretation also has national security implications. Suppose that a person's only connection to this country is that he was born here to a mother who was present just long enough to give birth and then quickly return to her native country. Suppose that country is a strategic adversary or enemy of the United States. Suppose the child never visited the United States while growing up up and was inculcated with hatred of this country. According to this court, now that person is a citizen of the United States. He can enter and leave the country as he pleases. He can travel the world on a United States passport. Even if he plots to harm this country, he cannot be deprived of his status as a citizen, at least under current precedent. He goes on to say that this decision today also provides a powerful incentive to enter or remain in this country illegally. He goes on to say, in my judgment, the court has made a mistake that will seriously affect the country's future. So some very pointed dissents here from those who raised these very big concerns during the arguments, and they're real world scenarios, which are not a fantasy. They're not a movie. I mean, these things that can actually happen now under this ruling that you have today from the majority.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. As you can see there, Clarence Thomas, Alito, laid out eloquent arguments as to why this is nonsensical, right? Why this is so terrible and bad for this country, right? And again, the reason why I am so devastated by this is because I thought that their arguments were pretty strong, okay? It all really came down to, well, what is the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof actually means, right? And Clarence Thomas argued eloquently that it means more than simply just being required to obey American laws, right? The original public meaning of the 14th Amendment required complete political allegiance or domicile in the United States of America, and that the courts have been reading this too broadly, right? The citizenship clause too broadly for over a century. Children of people who are unlawfully, illegally in the United States of America or temporarily in the country were not originally understood to receive automatic citizenship under the 14th Amendment, okay? Now, the reason why we know this is because Native Americans, right? Native Americans, when the 14th Amendment was passed, right, they were not American citizens. We know this because Congress in the 1900s, I think it was the 1920s-ish, had to pass legislation granting them citizenship because they were not subject to the jurisdiction thereof, despite being geographically born in the United States of America. They did not owe their political allegiance.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln was not a slave owner, period. You guys can Google for yourselves. In the chat, they saying, I guess, trying to say Abraham Lincoln owned slaves or was against slavery. Well, no, I guess they trying to say Abraham Lincoln was for slavery, but he never owned slaves. Again, Abraham Lincoln never owned slaves.
To the United States, which is why they were not citizens, right? They were not considered citizens for a long time. So again, we know that. And
from what I'm reading, it says he did inherit slaves through his family connections, but he did not keep them. So if he did have slaves through family connections, Abraham Lincoln didn't keep them.
We know that the original meaning does not mean anybody that was born geographically in the United States of America. But yet again, the courts have basically read the citizenship clause as that, despite the fact that we have concrete examples of the fact that that's not actually what it originally meant, right? And again, that's the disappointing part about this, because we do have
Good morning, Brian. Good morning.
A system, right? This current system that is being taken advantage of, as Justice Alito laid out, right, through birth tourism.
Well, a massive update on the Trump administration's crackdown on birth tourism. The State Department shutting down a sophisticated tourism network after the U.S. Embassy in West Africa revealed more than 100 foreign nationals were using fraudulent documents and visa fixers to illegally obtain American citizenship. And it was a similar story in North Africa. Over 100 visas were just revoked as the embassy there said expecting mothers were coming to America to give birth for the sole purpose of giving their child American citizenship. Meanwhile, in Europe, we now know that there was over 400 suspected birth tourism.
See, we can't do that in other countries. We cannot go to other countries and then just have babies and then we just stay there. They're going to put us in prison or kick us out. But Americans, y'all want to let everybody in with no problem. That's not how that works, y'all. As far as liberals and Democrats, you got to take care of America first. All this letting people in, unvetted. If the people come here to respect America and vet to America and assimilate, come on in with no problem. But they're not doing that. They're causing chaos. They're not getting their visas. They're not, you know what I'm saying? They're not trying to learn English. It's crazy.
Cases since 2024. And investigators managed to trace them to at least 6 companies that coached foreign nations on what to say in their visa interview. The birth tourism companies also arranged housing in America and even set up delivery plans for expectant mothers. Now, the State Department adding, quote, a U.S. visa is a privilege. It is not a right. The State Department is taking action around the world to stop this abuse, to dismantle birth tourism networks, and hold accountable those who try to scam our system.
Yeah, the liberals and the majority, including Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts, said, yeah, that's okay, right? That's totally fine. That's totally okay. We're cool with that, right? We're cool with that. So I want to play the reaction here from Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, okay? His reaction to this decision, because I think that his reaction is the most devastating part about this, as I outlined at the beginning of this video. Take a look.
That decision is children born in the United States, parents unlawfully or temporarily present, are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. So, what's your reaction to that, Mr. Speaker?
Well, I need to read the opinion, okay? But obviously you could say that's a textualist, originalist view. However, I do think that this has been grossly abused in recent years, okay? And that is the case that was being made by the plaintiffs in the case, and we're very sympathetic to that because it is a serious problem. We have it's become a birthing tourism, they call it, a trend where people will just come and you just come onto the soil and have your child, and then they're able to avail themselves of the welfare state and everything else. It's been abused. It's one of those things that was intended to serve a noble and important purpose and has been thwarted and overused and abused. And so I'm sure that...
Well, it's called temporarily. That right there, temporary status, that right there should let you know it's temporary. Get your shit together. Assimilate to America. You know what I'm saying? Get vetted. Just do this. They ain't doing that. These people been over here over 10 years, and they are not getting themselves up to date like they should. It's not hard to do. All these programs out here, it's easy to get their stuff up to date.
We'll continue to look at that. I mean, I'm sure the conclusion from this opinion is going to be that you got to amend the Constitution to fix that. As we all know, it's a big challenge to amend the Constitution. It's only happened 27 times in our whole nation's history, and the reason is because you got to have 2/3 of both chambers of Congress and 3/4 of the states to ratify. It's usually at least a many years long process and very complicated. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be lots of discussion about that. I will say I'm very disappointed in that outcome. I think it subjects the country to serious challenges going forward, and we'll have to deal with it as a Congress. Last one.
And that's the effed up part about this.
Yep.
That is the most disappointing part about this, is that Congress can't do anything about it, right? That's the most disappointing part, right? And it gets even worse. I'm going to tell you why. It's not just about the fact that they did not reject birthright citizenship, right? That they upheld it. It's when you actually look at the opinions, right? How it came down. Kavanaugh tried to open up a pathway, even though he agreed with the majority, right, on this statutory question, right, of this opinion, right, of this decision, okay? He tried to open up an avenue for Congress to do something, right? So in the sense that the 14th Amendment, that citizenship clause, the way that the majority is interpreted is not absolute, right? That Congress could step in and limit birthright citizenship without it being unconstitutional. The problem is that as the court is currently constructed, right, you have the 3 liberals who believe that it's absolute, plus 2 conservatives and John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, who also believe that it's absolute, right? They also believe that. So again, that's why we can't even do anything about it with legislation. And we know damn well that it is impossible, almost impossible in the current political environment to do a constitutional amendment. It's not.
That's not how that works when it comes to MAGA. You put RFK and Tulsi Gabbard on the ballot, we'll be coming back. No, we won't. It's not how that works when it comes to us MAGA. You know what I'm saying? We're not just gonna just vote for somebody just because. We do our research, man. It'd be nice to have them on the ballot, but I'm not gonna vote for them. I'll vote for them for different situations, but as far as presidency and vice president and all, my mind is JD and Mark Rubio. Those two, either position for me. They already in the position. They already see what's going on. So why would you get somebody else that's different? You already got somebody in office already. See what's going on. I'm with that. So no, I what you kind of get at. Or JD or Tucker Carlson. Either way it go, we can still Republican. We're not voting Democrat. That's one thing. We're not voting Democrat. We're not going back. Period.
Happening. We can't even pass the SAVE Act. Okay? We can't even pass the SAVE Act. There's no way we're ever getting a constitutional amendment that is going to rectify this issue. And the court, as it currently stands, says, yeah, I mean, that's the only way we can do anything about it. You need a constitutional amendment. Again, that's the worst part. Because, I expected the courts to uphold birthright citizenship. I didn't expect them to outright strike it down. I expected them to weaken it. They didn't even weaken it. They actually, really, they strengthened it. And again, the most disappointing part about it is that the so-called conservatives, especially Amy Coney Barrett, John Roberts has been a turncoat for years now, right? He's the guy that is there to take all of the heat because he's trying to uphold the legitimacy of the court, right? So he has to be the swing vote, right? He has to side with the liberals every now and then to make it seem like the court is not ideologically captured, right? So, I'm cool with Roberts being a turncoat, right? I expect it, right? He's basically the liberal. But Amy Coney Barrett, though, has been the biggest disappointment that I've ever seen from a so-called...
I'm MAGA regardless, with or without Trump, period. You know what I'm saying? Trump opened my eyes up to, more about being an American, period. And the thing about it is, I have a passport. I travel over the seas. I've been to Jamaica. I've been to Haiti. Been to Mexico. I've been to all the states here in America. America's a great place, period. I'm 43. I've been in Jamaica when I was 17, Mexico 23. Been on a cruise many a times, visiting different places. Growing up, going different places. And America is a great place. It ain't perfect. It ain't the best. But all this negative talk about it, but then just leave then. If not, help make it better. Facts over feelings. We still got people to Mark Carmelo Anthony thought the man innocent when the man brought a knife to a school when he shouldn't have done that the first time. He was suspended for that the first time as well. So we gotta do better. Thanks for the super chat, Terrence. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you guys. How are you guys? Thank you. Blessings. Thank you, Terrence. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you.
Conservative justice. She is the absolute worst pick. Okay, she may be one of the worst things about Trump's first administration, right? I'm so serious. When it comes to the courts, she is probably the worst, okay? Because had she sided with Brett Kavanaugh, right, in the sense that she could have still upheld birthright citizenship, but she could have, again, opened it up to Congress to do something about it, right? She could have sided with Kavanaugh in that sense. Again, we would be looking at this a little bit differently, right? I would have a different reaction. I would say, well, we didn't get everything we wanted, but we have a pathway. There's a pathway. Now that this is a legitimate issue that Republicans can campaign on and say, hey, yeah, we could actually do something about this, right? Again, in terms of whether they actually get it done, again, we can't even pass the SAVE Act, right? I will say we can barely pass. We can't even barely pass. We can't pass it all, right? We can't pass it. Can't do anything. So, I'm just saying, but there would be hope, right? There would be some hope, like legitimate hope that, okay, we can do something about this.
My friends, today is a dark day for America. The Supreme Court has rendered their decision on birthright citizenship and frankly done pretty much exactly what we expected, although by a very narrow margin. They've essentially now legally reinforced the modern interpretation of birthright citizenship, essentially failing the American people in the interest of the nation. Instead of protecting the sovereignty of this great country, they've chosen to keep the door wide open for a continued subversion and demographic replacement campaign. They've opened the border to a constant and continued flow of chaos coming over. The globalists just want a major victory.
This is our liberal high mind. Hope you guys like him. He be coming with some good facts too as well.
Today, and every single American citizen is going to feel the consequences, as they already have for the past few decades. We know the inevitable result here. America will become a country that is less and less recognizable as the ones your ancestors built. Let's go ahead and talk about this. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so here's the news update.
And it's a big one. It has to do with birthright citizenship. It was an executive order that President Trump, on day one of his second term in January 2025, signed the executive order. It was immediately challenged, and now we can tell you that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump's order to limit birthright citizenship. Shannon, we have talked for some time about the president feeling that he would not win on this one. The question is, why not?
Okay. Right off the bat, it says children born in the United States to parents unlawfully or temporarily present are, quote, subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment's Citizenship Clause. So look how this broke down. As we expected, the Chief Justice wrote this opinion. Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, Barrett, and Jackson joined. Jackson has a concurring opinion in which Sotomayor joins. Justice Kavanaugh files an opinion concurring in the judgment and dissenting in part. The dissent comes from Justice Thomas. He is joined by Gorsuch, Alito, and then Justice Gorsuch apparently has his own dissenting opinion. So it is what we expected after the arguments here, and it looks like a bit of a split, but enough of a plurality coming together to say that the executive order that the president issued very quickly upon taking office is no good, and that if people are here, subject to the jurisdiction thereof includes people who are here illegally. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice Roberts says this: citizenship then and now was the right to have rights to freely participate in our political community. Talking about the 14th Amendment, the framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land. That's a quote, and it looks like it's a quote back to some of the legislative debate about this in Congress. He says we keep that promise today.
Given how obviously destructive birthright citizenship has become, I think every sensible American was hoping the Supreme Court, with their ruling today, would finally put an end to this scam. But instead, to everyone's disappointment, and not necessarily to our shock and surprise, once again, the so-called conservative justices have sided with the leftist judges on the panel. Chief among them is Amy Coney Barrett, who's been an absolute disaster during her tenure on the court, and once again proves that she is Donald.
Thank you for the blessings, man. Thank you, Terrence. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Trump's biggest mistake by a long shot. I think she speaks to the issues of Trump's first term in office. He was led astray by these neocons pushing their agenda subversively behind him. He fell for the Amy Coney Barrett trap that she would be a tough constitutionalist, but she has proven time and time again that essentially she was a DEI hire. I remember there was all this talk back then that Republicans needed to put a woman on the court. It was imperative. It was important for purposes of progress. But once again, she proves that she lacks the temperament or the backbone to make the hard decisions that the country needs. And some might argue the opposite, that actually she made the most constitutional decision. But personally, I don't think that's the case. I think when interpreting the Constitution and what the founding fathers put together, or the framers of amendments that followed, you have to apply a little bit of context and nuance. And that's what I believe was totally missing from this decision. I think Clarence Thomas hit the nail on the head in his dissent. And I mean, you could only describe Clarence Thomas after this decision as fucking pissed.
Back to Shannon Bream for the view from Justice Thomas, who was a dissenter here. Shannon.
Yeah, in his dissent, he gets to that point, Bill, that you're making there. The 14th Amendment was enacted in the wake of the Civil War, quote, with the one pervading purpose of securing equal citizenship for the freed slaves. He writes, it was enacted, as Justice Harlan wrote, to secure to a race recently emancipated the civil rights that other citizens enjoyed. So Thomas has always been about that was the purpose of the 14th Amendment. He goes on to say that the court, meaning the majority now, has repurposed the 14th Amendment to protect its own set of preferred rights that the Reconstruction Congress never contemplated and that cannot find support in the text. Today, the court does so by recognizing a constitutional right to citizenship for the children of all foreign birth tourists and illegal aliens. Uses very specific language there. Again, Justice Thomas adhering and agreeing with the government's argument, which they made here very passionately, that the 14th Amendment was about protecting the children of freed slaves and not what we've come to understand it as. You see his language there. He mentions birth tourism. It came up in the arguments, and clearly that's a very big concern of the dissenters.
The Amy Coney Barrett and Roberts approach to me is patently insane. It's way too narrow and literal of a reading that I think completely ignores the actual intent, the important context. The 14th Amendment was passed in 1868. This was the era of emancipation for slaves. The entire purpose was to secure citizenship for free slaves after the Civil War. That context ought to be important, right? But no, these people are completely ignoring that context, just sticking to that single sentence of subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and applying that to everyone, including illegals and their children. But the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof was not meant to just be a throwaway line. During the actual debate, Senator Jacob Howard, who introduced the clause, explicitly said that it would not apply to children of foreign diplomats or aliens who owe allegiance to a foreign power. The entire purpose of the amendment was extremely focused in its regard. It was to guarantee citizenship to Black Americans who had been enslaved and were now free. And the way that it's been totally perverted, frankly, is to now create this system where anyone who enters the country illegally can instantly have citizenship granted to their child. It's an absolute absurdity. And as Samuel Alito said, the implication is highly destructive to the nation.
This comes from Justice Alito, who brought this up during the arguments. This is his separate dissent. He said the court's interpretation also has national security implications. Suppose that a person's only connection to this country is that he was born here to a mother who was present just long enough to give birth and then quickly return to her native country. Suppose that country is a strategic adversary or enemy of the United States. Suppose the child never visited the United States while growing up and was inculcated with hatred of this country. Right. According to this court now, that person is a citizen of the United States. He can enter and leave the country as he pleases. He can travel the world on a United States passport. Even if he plots to harm this country, he cannot be deprived of his status as a citizen, at least under current precedent. He goes on to say that this decision today also provides a powerful incentive to enter or remain in this country illegally. He goes on to say, in my judgment, the court has made a mistake that will seriously affect the country's future. So some very pointed dissents here from those who raised these very big concerns during the arguments, and they're real world scenarios, which are not a fantasy. They're not a movie. I mean, these things that can actually happen now under this ruling that you have today from the majority.
This is going to be a complete disaster for America. And you know how I know that? Because it already is a freaking disaster. Well, now this is the double down. This is an advertisement to terrorist organizations abroad, to Chinese billionaires, foreign interest groups, and of course illegal migrants and illegal gang members. It's a total green light. Come on in. The most perverse illegal immigration incentive imaginable. The message that's being exported to the world right now is you can openly game the system, and not only will you not face consequences, but actually you'll benefit big time, to the tune of probably over $1 million if you think about it per kid. All the social services, schooling,
nothing is free.
You name it. On top of it, the opportunity potential. Drop a kid on American soil and there you go. It's a freaking lottery ticket. And actually, it's a guaranteed lottery ticket per child. This is not an immigration system. And it's funny because the Democrats are always blah, blah, blahing about how broken the immigration system is. Well, this is the most broken part, and here they are all over social media celebrating this as some massive victory for the country. But of course it isn't. It's an open door invasion. They're just celebrating because they know it benefits them. They know foreign subversive interests kind of lines up with their political party interest. So they're fully willing to hand over the keys to the kingdom for short-term political gain. And, actually just stepping away from the constitutional argument here, the legal interpretation of the amendment. I think if we remove ourselves from that conversation, you would have to be an absolute moron or a person with bad intentions acting in bad faith to argue that birthright citizenship makes sense. It's obviously the dumbest and most perverse interpretation, probably one of the dumbest laws on the books, and the modern interpretation is clearly destructive, but yet again I think speaks to the corruption of the Democrat Party. It should be the easiest thing in the world to pass a congressional amendment shutting this loophole down, but no, they'll never, ever frickin' sign on to that. Bad, it's very obviously wrong, don't need to use any fancy academic words, it's just wrong, not good, and it's very obviously a direct betrayal of the American people. It almost cheapens American citizenship to the point where it doesn't even really mean much anymore. Anyone can become a citizen. Just come on in, come illegally on a tourist visa. Oh, you're 8.5 months pregnant? Oh, well, come on in. Drop a kid, skip on the bill. Don't even pay your medical bill. Just go back home, leave the kid with relatives. And there you go, a direct line to benefits, chain migration, possibly the eventual legalization for the entire family. The entire concept of American citizenship gets diluted to almost nothing. You know, it's yet again one of those things that's now, of course, directly linked to the Democrat agenda that has you.
Hey gang, Dr. Steve here, your Patriot Professor. Today, I'm not in the studio. Sometimes it's travel, sometimes it's family, sometimes I need a day to step back, pray, and, be human for a minute. But I never want a day to go by where you feel alone in this fight. So my team and I have built a special library of unique episodes, quieter, more reflective conversations, no breaking news, no pressure, just you and me walking through what it actually means to rebuild faith and restore family and reclaim freedom. You're about to see one of them. Treat it like a real walk. Pause, sometimes hits you if it hits you in a certain place. Think it through, pray over it, and then come into the comments and share what stood out most. Your voice and your story is what makes this more than a video. Thank you guys. Love you. God bless. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, on one of my Turley walks. So absolutely beautiful out here, and I'm so glad to have you here with me as we take a walk together and talk about some of the biggest issues in the world today. We've been talking a lot about the rise of what's called theopolitics. So theopolitics is the study of how theological cosmovisions organize political power, determining their sovereignty, identity, and the direction of nations, as it were. And in our previous videos, we talked a lot about things like how religious demographics are fueling the rise of the theopolitics around the world, how those demographics are changing constitutions and political order, especially like we saw in Hungary over the last 16 years. We've looked at the rise of civilizational populism and civilization states reshaping Western politics and indeed global politics with China and Russia. And that's what I want to talk about. We now turn outward to one of the most consequential non-Western theopolitical architectures in the emerging world, and that's China. And particularly their doctrine of what's known as Tianxia, which means it encapsulates the idea of all under heaven. All under heaven. It's a cosmic vision. So simply put, the secular analyst who tries to understand China's, say, for example, their Belt and Road Initiative, purely on economic terms or infrastructure investment or just the accumulation of raw geopolitical power,
Thank you guys for the super chat. Thank you guys for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for subscribing and sending the super chat. Thank you. Name is Deunta. Thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you. Thank you.
Frankly, blind. Yes, of course, there is infrastructure investment. There is geopolitical leverage, of course. But a purely secular analysis would be blind to the cosmovision that animates both. And it's obviously bigger than China. The emerging multipolar world is not a redistribution of power among secular states. That's not how to think of multipolarity. It's a competition among cosmovisions. And it's fundamentally different theological answers to how the world ought to be ordered. I hope the microphone unfortunately picks up a lot of wind. I'm sorry for that. Now, in terms of China's answer to that and how it relates to the world and its distinctive cosmovision, The term for Chinese cosmovision is Tianxia, Tinxia, Tianxia. And it's not a historical metaphor. It's actually a living political theology. For 3,000 years, Chinese civilization operated on a foundational cosmological conviction. China is the Hua, yes, not the Marines, the HUA, the civilized moral code of the world. The emperor was considered the son of heaven. He was the axis mundi, really the point where heaven and earth met, like the cross in Christianity. His moral virtue maintained the harmony of the...
People still want to come here regardless. I don't even get it. Let's go ahead and switch it up. Let's go ahead and get up out of here.
In Egypt my entire life. I just moved here 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well,
genuinely,
Egypt has...
my life there, infinitely better than my life here.
Then leave.
Infinitely better.
Then leave.
I've lived in Egypt my entire life. My life there, infinitely better than my life here.
Then go back there.
It's way more fun.
Go back there.
I feel way safer.
Get on a plane.
Way safer.
Buckle the fuck up.
I've never had to walk out at night and think, oh, I should have pepper spray on me.
And go to Egypt.
Never. Ever.
So go back to walking at night in Egypt.
There's no place where you would go in like Cairo, Alexandria, whatever, where you feel actually unsafe.
Why am I sensing Lara Logan would disagree with you?
If in an Islamic state, let's say Afghanistan, let's say Iran, a woman decides to wake up and dress like that girl right there with the glasses and the shorts, is she going to be completely fine?
No.
Am I from Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan?
There are Islamic states.
Okay.
So is she going to be okay?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know.
I don't know. I'm not from there.
You know.
I'm genuinely not from there.
I don't think she'd be okay.
Okay.
I don't think she'd be okay.
Back to Egypt, indeed. Get the fuck out.
Because there used to be a time when anytime the Democrats wanted to get black people to do something, they would say slavery. One word. If y'all don't vote for us, it's going to be slavery. If this passes in the Senate and then in the House, slavery. If Trump comes in, it's going to be slavery.
Let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Just slavery, slavery, slavery. And it used to work. But then they figured out, that slavery word ain't working no more. So then they escalated to this Jim Crow. It's going to be Jim Crow 2.420. It's Jim Crow, Jim Crow, Jim Crow. But then they figured out that didn't work either. So now they're using apartheid. The word apartheid. Like, how far can you escalate? What's next? I wonder. Let me see. We got slavery. We got Jim Crow. We got apartheid. What's next? Just plain death.
Party has gone too far left? Well, listen to this.
She has attacked interracial relationships in the American flag. Lady, I ain't in the same party as you. I'm sorry. I just not. And I actually do think it's time for Democrats to talk the S word, schism. I really do. Everybody's always said, no, we're a coalition, we're a big tent. And there's just some shit that I can't be in the same tent with. I want to be very specific. I understand the free press for being here because if they nominated David Duke or something like that, we'd be the same way. But the idea that we must neglect everything else that's going on, all of these other primaries, all the recruits Jason has, all the huge, phenomenal successes we've had, and declare that the party is now under the control of a democratic socialist of New York City is insane. And understand, these people do not like Democrats. Not only are they not Democrats, they wish Democrats poorly. I'm done. I'm not in a fucking political party. I am totally comfortable in a political party that spends time questioning the policies of the government of Israel. In fact, I'm enthusiastic about that. I don't want to be in a political party that denies the right of the state of Israel to exist. That's just not, I just can't do that. I'm sorry. It's just not doable.
Now that's former Democratic strategist and Bill Clinton minion, James Carville. Now, as long as I've been involved in politics, Carville has been an absolute Democrat stalwart. In fact, for many years, he literally was the Democratic Party. And while I've seen him differ with Democrats on strategy, this is something altogether different. You know, let's make no mistake about it. I think Carville is a social leftist, no doubt. But he's obviously not a socialist. And he's certainly no lunatic. And hearing this lifelong champion of the Democratic Party speak this way certainly puts things in perspective for the future of that party. I personally believe they have gone left for good, and their common sense has gone and left for good as well. Trust me, the schism is real, James.
Somebody said in the chat, China's not a communist country. Yes, it is. China is officially a communist country governed by the Communist Party. Yeah. So come on, chat. Y'all gotta do better in this chat, y'all, with y'all facts.
I'm to jump ship. So you don't.
Charlie.
Syria, she had to be barricaded for. What is your opinion on the divisiveness perpetuated by the Trump administration? Do you have any issue with the fact that the first time Riley came to campus here, she had to be barricaded for multiple hours because left-wing students tried to physically attack her? Is that divisive? Joe Biden gave a speech in November 2022, right before the midterms, in front of Independence Hall. He said ultra MAGA is a threat to the country. MAGA, keyword MAGA. I think there's a difference between MAGA and Republicans. He said that everyone wearing here a red hat is a threat to the homeland. Joe Biden declared they are? The amount of times. That guy right there, hold on, look them in the eye. These people are threats to the homeland? Okay, that's fine. Who here wants a hat? Are all these people? No, I want you to look at your fellow American citizens wanting this hat. Are these people a threat to the country? Is that what you're saying? Are these people a threat to the country? I think the ideology that they perpetuate is. You yourself have said we have seen an increase in hate crimes and political. No, we have not. No, I did not. I said we're more divided. We have not seen an increase of hate crimes. We've seen. Why do you think we're more divided, Charlie? Oh, I think we're more divided because we finally exposed the left for what they are, and the left is the one dividing this country. What is your opinion?
No power anymore. That the media and the punditry class, not that, you know, I think you've proven they have no power anymore because they threw everything they had at you and they didn't win. And that was, you know, the New York Times, Washington Post, 3 networks, every late night comedy show, 2 cable channels. They threw everything, lawfare, weaponization. Sure. And now I see they want you two to start, they want a divorce. They want you two to start hating each other. And they try, President Elon Musk, for example. You do know that they're doing that to you.
Oh, I see it all the time. They tried it, then they stopped. That wasn't. They have many different things of hatred. Actually, Elon called me. He said, they're trying to drive us apart. I said, absolutely. They said, we have breaking news. Donald Trump has ceded control of the presidency to Elon Musk. President Musk will be attending a cabinet meeting tonight at 8 o'clock. And I say, it's just so obvious. They're so bad at it. I used to think they were good at it. They're actually bad at it, because if they were good at it, I'd never be president. Because I think nobody in history has ever gotten more bad publicity than me. I could do the greatest things. I get 98% bad publicity. I could do, outside of you and a few of your very good friends.
I don't know why this person in the chat keep on saying that China's not a communist. I'm on my laptop looking right at it. It says China is a communist. What is you doing on it? What is you doing? Where you get your information from? That's crazy. This man definitely trying to defend China. Where you live? What kind of phone you looking at? Put the phone down, man. Get out the chat. This man said China's not a communist country. What? Put the phone down, man. Put it down.
Right. It's like the craziest thing. But you know what I have learned, Elon? The people are smart. They get it.
You gotta be a bot.
They get it. They really see what's happening.
Yes.
That
If you're celebrating the Supreme Court telling states they can ban trans athletes, I think your family tree's the shape of a fucking wreath, and I don't ever want to hear a word of your opinion on anything fucking ever. Because let's be clear here, you motherfuckers have made fun of women's sports for years. You called Serena Williams a man for years. You have done nothing but disparage and belittle women's sports for your entire lives.
The only person disparaging women with this post is you, because women have been saying that they're uncomfortable with men in their spaces. And if you truly cared about women feeling empowered in sports, why would you push for men to take over their spaces and be the ones on the podium getting first place? Like, doesn't that seem kind of hypocritical, don't you think? So you're worried that people have talked crap about women's sports? I'm worried about men being in women's spaces. I'm worried about girls saying that they're uncomfortable and people like you refusing to listen because you want to trust and listen to all women, believe all women until that woman doesn't feed into your sort of narrative that these men parading as women should be in our spaces. What about listening to those girls? What about the girl that was in a wrestling match and had the male opponent shove his fingers where the sun don't shine? You don't want to listen to her suddenly? You don't want to believe all women? Is that how this goes? And by the way, why are you so angry? Maybe you need to take a chill pill. And by the way, you were just celebrating another win from the Supreme Court and you were just as angry. A win for your side. Are you just always miserable? Anyways, let me know.
Hold on, I got some good ones for you. Hold on. I got some good ones. Stay with me.
So something many of you probably don't know about me is that I am a recovering far-left progressive liberal. I went to NYU for undergrad, I went to Penn for grad school, and I studied things that can't actually turn into any sort of real profession. I've got 7 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of degrees that I don't even really use. So understand when I say what I'm about to say, where I am coming from, which is that the DSA candidates who are taking over the Democratic Party right now, they are not actually powered by the working class people fighting for affordability. They are powered by people like who I used to be. Overeducated white or white-passing liberals with graduate degrees from reputable universities, many of whom have never even held a real job, like our current mayor, unless, of course, you count his failed rapping career. The Democratic Socialists, they are taking over New York City. They are taking over the Democratic Party. They want to take over our country. They want you to think that it is lower middle class working people who are rising up for affordability, but it's not. Let me break this down for you. The DSA's own membership is 85% white. The average age is 33. 80% of them have college degrees. We're not talking about factory workers here. These are grad students. They are nonprofit staffers. They are people with master's degrees in sociology. Their concerns with affordability are about the fact that they have been in school for 15 years. Never thought to finish and actually join the workforce. So yeah.
Like, share, and subscribe, you guys. Like, share, and subscribe. Good morning, good morning. Thank you guys for being in the chat with me. Appreciate it.
Affordability is an issue for people like that. And all of this would be fine and harmless, except for the fact that they are playing you and they are winning. And the thing is,
yeah. So what's the Democrats Party's policies? Anybody in the chat? I know MAGA, we good. If you're not a MAGA, I know you guys, conservative. But the Democrats and the libs that's in the chat, What's the Democrats' policies? What they running on? What are the Democrats' policies besides Trump is bad? I have not heard one policy. Only policy what I did hear is they want reparations for the illegals. They want open borders. That makes no sense. And they want to defund the police and defund ICE. So all they're doing is they care about the illegals. They don't care about America. Are you serious? If you guys don't care about America, then just leave, man. Stop voting against America. What are the Democrats' policies? How are they going to help America?
Their agenda is not about affordability at all. It is about their hatred for this country.
They're going to flood
the DSA now claims over 250 elected officials nationwide. They are taking over the Democratic Party from city councils to Congress, and they are doing it with the votes of privileged white college graduates who have also been taught to hate this country in their Ivy League classrooms, like the ones that I also sat in. They hate America's history, they hate its institutions, and they even hate its flag. Look, I am not against education. I use my education in non-traditional ways every single day. I am against exploitation and lies. And these DSA politicians and their supporters, they are not fighting for the working class. They are fighting for their own ideological vanity project. And it is being funded by upper middle class white guilt and paid for with other people's money. The DSA is not a working class movement. It is a campus movement, and it never left college. It is a sneaky sideways takeover of the Democratic Party by people who hate America, and everyone is falling for it.
Yep, that's the problem. White guilt. White guilt. That is a problem. Because there's no way a black person can get on a white person's show and talk about white supremacy. Like it's okay to talk about. That's not cool. No, it's not cool at all. That's insane. The white guilt, man. Let's continue.
Now, this TPS ruling must have really stirred the pot, because I just got finished watching a live right here on TikTok where South Africans were telling Nigerians that they need to go home. Now, I didn't even know Nigerians was even over there in South Africa, because that's how much I'm usually minding my Black American business. But this is my problem with the United States in particular. We are always so wrapped up in other people's problems. We have enough issues of our own. It is time for other countries to deal with their people. What I'm concerned about in particular is the fact that there are veterans right now who are homeless, who are in need of assistance, and we are helping other countries. It's crazy. Or what about our elderly population? Those are the issues that we need to stay focused on. American problems, not problems of no other country. And this is not no hate to immigrants, because I love everybody, but I love America the most. This is home for us, and we need to focus on home. Get our own house in order.
How you doing, Mayor Brent?
Them to be in the power, you are done. You need to run. Absolutely fine. Oh, I just want to tell the truth about Iran. No. Never been in Iran. I'm Persian. My mom, all my family, 99% of my family, they are still living in Iran. I've been here since I came here 7 years ago. And I know how the murderer regime killed all the people in Iran. And those useless idiots, they don't want to listen to us, to Persian people. You know why? Because they hate Israel. They know Khamenei hate Israel. That's why they love Khamenei. They don't care how Khamenei, less than 3 months ago, killed more than 50,000 people in 2 days. And I can see those people, they are holding the Khamenei picture in their hand, and they are not even Iranian.
Do you think Islamic extremism is on the streets of London?
Listen, they are controlling London. That's why we just try to help people in London. What you're seeing here now, we saw it 50 years ago. Now, We asked our grandfather, our parents, why you didn't say anything. And now I can see, because they've been drinking in the pub. They say, oh, diversity, oh, we need to respect, oh, we cannot divide. But in a minute, they get to the power, they force you to cover your hair.
You see London being under Sharia law?
Of course, it is. Of course, it is. It is by the Sadiq Khan, by Ayatollah Kiarostami.
And you've lived under Islamic extremism, so you understand.
From London, I'm not living in London anymore because I wasn't safe. 2 days ago, they burned the car in North London because they hang the Persian flag. A few days back, they burned 4 ambulances in Golders Green because they've been for Jews. If you let them to be in the power, you are done.
You hear that shit?
What up, fam? I want to tell y'all something. One of the funniest, saddest things to me at the same time is when I talk about Glorilla and Sexy Red and Young Miami and City Girls and whole culture. Get this money, pop this ass, shake this pussy, all that whole shit and weaves and nails and lashes and these Jezebel hoes.
Appreciate you, Jake. If you guys haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't already, I thank you guys. We are growing. We had 2,147 subscribers. Thank you, guys.
Boy, the way women defend that shit is amazing. Women will come on and defend that shit. Oh, we just being vilified. The black woman is the only one that's vilified for her body. She can twerk. What's wrong with her moving her body, policing her body? But you know what's funnier than that? When I say these niggas rapping this bullshit
Pat,
and
thank
talking
you,
this
Pat.
drug and street culture, and niggas come on and defend that shit way worse than them motherfucking hoes.
Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.
A nigga get into his childhood, how his father went around, the black community, the black economy, all the things that happen, and that's why we got to have fuck boy rap. We need some niggas rapping about growing up in the struggle in the streets and working hard and not being able to make no money. We need that kind of rap. We need niggas to talk about smoking on niggas and shooting up the hood and drugs. We need that. We don't need no females shaking their ass. That's wrong. The Jews making them females do that. They plants. But as far as the black men rapping about the streets and killing themselves, that's true. We need that. What you mean? You talk about JP ain't do that. He did do that. Man, all the stuff T.I. and them guys say they did. Jeezy, man, we need that rap, man. Sexy Red and them and Lotto, they plants. They being used to fuck the black race up. They being used to poison little girls by booty hole brown. But when 50 Cent and black men rap about shit, we need them. We need them stories told, man. We need them. Nigga, you just don't know because you ain't jump off the porch early. You ain't grow up in the streets. You don't know how I feel to be in this city and them projects. I ain't had no doctors and no lawyers to look up to. I did my street rap. I did my street rap. Ain't nothing wrong with this, man. But the women, they wrong. They wrong. They plants. They agents. They getting paid to do that shit. But when men do it, when men do it, we need these ghetto stories told, man. And one little piggy, two little piggy. Got the Draco went out there. We need that shit. We need men rap to be violent and stuff. Don't talk about being rap. We need that. It's just the women is fake. They plants, not the men. The men's is.
Yeah, you know he's acting, you guys. The moderate masculine man. He be coming with some stuff, man. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and go to another one. This guy is hilarious, but he be coming with some good facts, man. On real.
Me as a concerned father of the black race, concerned about our advancement and forward movement. I have a saying. I've always said I wish they never let niggas on TV, on the radio, in professional sports, or the movies. Now, as we grow older as a race in America, you can kind of see what I mean. Now listen, outside of that shit entertaining us, it has zero purpose in our lives outside of being entertained. But its sole purpose is to monetize our dysfunction, failures, and low-lifeness. There are people that are not black that pay entertainers and athletes a lot of money, which ain't about 1,000 black athletes. Between football, basketball, rap singing, and all entertainment, it might be 1,000 black people that are being paid millions of dollars, and their job is to solely keep us brainwashed and asleep. Now let's break down the word entertainment for a second. Enter, you know what that fuck that mean. Go in your goddamn head. Tain, you being detained, maintained, contained. That means you being held, motherfucker. And me means you're mental. So they enter your mentality brain and detain and hold you fucking hostage. While meanwhile, they make all the fucking money and it's only 1,000 niggas getting paid. And the other 45 million black people are watching, yelling, saying, go basketball player, go rapper, go TV, screaming at the motherfucking TV. And meanwhile, we are the ones oppressed. We are the ones that continue the cycles of violence and lasciviousness and debauchery and rape culture and drug culture and just fuck shit in our communities, right? So it's only 1,000 motherfuckers getting paid from this shit. 1,000 between the basketball players, football players, rappers, and motherfucking actors. We think they love us. We think they love us. Now remember, I'm speaking to the black race as a whole. What did black people do before they let us on TV, professional sports, on the radio, and the movies? We had our own shit, had our own communities. All that money was coming to us and we were controlling the art. I wouldn't give a fuck if they took all that shit off TV. I can read. I'll read a fucking book. But niggas don't realize, I'm going to say it again. I've been saying it for 20 years on social media. I wish they never let niggas on TV, radio, the movies, or professional sports. You're starting to see why.
We're fighting fascistic tendencies in the United States. It feels almost like a dictatorship.
Since you hate America, here's a one-way ticket out. Not coming back home. We're here at home.
Yeah, you guys are like this one, you know what I'm saying? They asking people, you know what I'm saying, how they feel about America, and if America is so bad, here's a one-way ticket to leave. Check it out.
Harvard asking students how they feel about America and if they would revoke their citizenship and take a one-way ticket to leave and never return.
So let's start with, what do you think of your country?
It's been getting really crazy.
America has always been a fascist country. It feels almost like a dictatorship in some ways.
And also with the ICE thing, there's so much more going on with America.
Our civil rights were revoked.
I don't know if we'll survive Trump's presidency, man.
You think America is a fascist country?
A lot of people would say that.
Why do you think it's fascist?
A lot of people feel like they cannot exercise their freedom of speech or freedom of religious practice or expression. If you critique the government, if you speak out, there's a chance the president will tweet about you and attempt to harass you.
You still have these checks and balances and systems, yet people still think it's not a democracy.
Like, share, and subscribe, everybody. Like, share, and
Those checks and balances have
subscribe.
been violated in some ways. Like, it makes me feel uneasy.
What is the number one thing that you guys would change in your country immediately without even thinking twice about it?
Immigration laws.
You guys want to expand on that?
I just think it's really inhumane what is going on right now in this world. This is stolen land already, and if you're going to make arguments about people that are and aren't allowed to be here, I don't think it holds any value. And I
think it's a stolen land?
I think that
the first thing I would do is remove ourselves from foreign conflicts. Even if one dictator's bad, we're hearing one side of the story.
I think the United States has broken international law, undermining the sovereignty of places like Iran and Venezuela.
Do you think the situation is that bad that people would be interested in revoking their citizenship and moving?
Yeah.
Is it safe to say you hate America and aren't proud to be a citizen?
Yeah. Yes, of course.
I mean, yeah.
Is there any country you would rather live?
Copenhagen and Denmark.
Copenhagen.
I would go to Ireland.
New
Zealand.
If we gave you one-way ticket, would you take to leave America and to move to New Zealand?
go,
to
y'all.
Ireland, Belfast, I think. Completely move out of the country. Not coming back.
I did just get into Harvard. That's a really hard question.
No, I think by the end of the day, we're still stuck in this together.
I have obligations.
All right,
I got
awesome.
family here. I got
Awesome.
school here.
All right, fine. We'll take that as a no.
Practically, I think it would probably be a poor idea.
Like, there is still like a lot of good opportunities in America. Born and raised in America. My whole family's here. My whole life is here. This has been home. This is opportunity. I'll never be able to take that away from, the place that I was born in.
When given a real chance to leave, no one takes it. It's easy to criticize a system you benefit from, but when that system is taken away, the reality becomes a little more complicated.
Insane, you guys.
Meanwhile, closer to home, the Trump administration taking out a major threat to our homeland with a successful strike in Venezuela.
So, in a historic first, the United States just took down a cartel compound in Venezuela. And in another historic first, it was the Venezuelan government who told the U.S. military where the bad guys were hiding, something other governments all across Central and South America are also starting to do. Which means if you're a criminal, this is the wrong side of planet Earth.
Did he woke up?
President Trump says the United States has eliminated the leader of Tren de Aragua. The president says the U.S. Southern Command delivered a strike, coordinated, quote, with our friends in Venezuela, with whom we are working very well.
Gang known as Tren de Aragua.
The Trump administration designating Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization. Federal prosecutors in New York charging Guerrero last year. He's named as a co-conspirator in the indictment against former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro.
Are we expecting, or should we anticipate at some point in the not too distant future, the United States to take action against the cartels in Mexico?
I think you're seeing action taken against these cartels, right, in the Caribbean and the Southern Pacific by our U.S. military. So you're seeing the will of this president and his influence over the world.
This is a huge deal. I mean, they invited our military in, and we were able to identify where he was. And President Trump had the foresight to seize Maduro, change the relationship. We have a totally different energy dynamic around the world, by the way.
Check this out. Venezuelan oil exports are rising, and this is not going to stop anytime soon. Also, what nobody's talking about is this entire move right here, reopening Venezuela. This is going to remap the entire planet in ways nobody thought would ever happen, especially the criminals, because for decades, the one thing holding back Central and South America has been the rise of organized militants, who America's enemies say are the fault of our country. They say the cartels only exist because America exists. And they say illegal immigration only happens because America won't open its border, not because the wrong people have found a way to profit from it. But now leaders over here have banded together to end decades of mayhem. And now the gangs and criminals that we've been told were just a part of life and we're always going to be here, well, now they have no country where they can hide in and find sanctuary. There is no safe haven for a base or some sort of criminal operation that requires any sort of infrastructure. And think of what a nightmare this is for these guys who were making $13 billion a year off the U.S. border when it was open and have had no problem creating no-go zones in countries like Mexico and in Venezuela and in Colombia, destroying the lives of the law-abiding everywhere they operate. But that brings us to the real reason operations like what we just saw in Venezuela are taking place. The U.S. government has decided to finally do something about crime in our country and in other countries, and leaders who represent people who are absolutely sick of this are 100% on board. And now we're seeing that folks who once fled cartels and gangs in their home countries are deciding to go back, as law and order is now running the streets in their hometowns, giving the law-abiding everywhere a chance to better their own lives and get ahead. And if you've really got a heart of compassion, instead of opening the U.S. border, which just empowers these criminals, why not support the United States States, making things better for the law-abiding where they live by working legally or starting a business. Everyone in America should be in favor of what Venezuela just did, which just a few months ago was completely unthinkable. Watch.
President Trump says the United States has eliminated the leader of Tren Aragua. The president says the U.S. Southern Command delivered a strike. The president says the U.S. coordinated, quote, with our friends in Venezuela, with whom we are working very well. And that, quote, as a result, Tren Aragua no longer have safe haven in Venezuela or anywhere else.
So here you have a country which used to be run by a communist dictatorship with a cartel leader sitting atop it. And now things are totally different. They're working with the United States. Freedom is coming to the people of Venezuela in a way that it hasn't for a long time. And self-determination and the prospect of financial independence, something this country has been deprived of. And as you're about to see, this has huge implications for the way the world economy works and will work in the near future. Watch.
I mean, think about that. President Trump had the foresight to seize Maduro, change the relationship. We have a totally different energy dynamic around the world. By the way energy flows today, the Straits will be nowhere near as relevant 1 to 2 years from now. Because of the foresight of President Trump, he's made us energy independent at home. We're a net exporter. Now Venezuela, through our partnership.
Let me ask you a question. Why does Venezuela, which has the largest proven oil reserves in the entire world, not look like some of America's Gulf allies? Why is the wealth over in the Middle East not present in Venezuela? Simple. It's been stolen by criminals for years. And now that's changing. And the entire world is going to benefit from this. Not just the people of Venezuela who've been living in poverty and have been subject to corruption and criminal activity, but everybody who wants to buy those resources. This is going to lower prices for people all across the globe. It's going to make life more affordable, and it's going to bring people out of poverty. Poverty that's stuck around for too long because criminals had the wealth of this country firmly in their grasp, which they used to enrich themselves while their people lived in some of the most dire conditions anywhere on earth. But is oil the only resource that Venezuela has, which is still in the hands of criminals, or is there something else?
The gold mines of Las Claritas are controlled by affiliates of the gang known as Tren Aragua.
Oh!
At least they were until the major military operation which has left many towns and mines deserted.
Wow.
It's a ghost town. People are leaving. President Donald Trump claimed the gang was working with President Nicolas Maduro as justification for capturing him in January. Ties have warmed under interim leader Delcy Rodriguez. In areas like Las Claritas, her government's expected to grant new licenses to multinationals which haven't operated since the 2000s.
Wow. So this territory was controlled by gangs, and it's full of gold and other natural resources, and people have been living in poverty, working for criminal organizations, and now that's going to end. Now the wealth of this country is going to come out of it in ways never seen before, and this is going to take people who are living with nothing. These are people who are starving. It is going to give them a new future that wasn't possible 6 months ago while Maduro, who was a cartel leader, was sitting pretty in his criminal empire instead of in a New York jail where he belongs. And you know what the other problem is with all of this? Remember, Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, these three countries are part of a regime support apparatus that benefits countries like Russia, who back them. And together, what do? They help each other evade U.S. sanctions. They trade natural resources that are held by a corrupt criminal government in one country to a corrupt criminal government in another country. Oil was going back and forth from Venezuela and Iran. It was getting refined. It was being delivered to Cuba. These countries were keeping themselves afloat. And once Venezuela changed, the entire Jenga blocks tower of regime support crumbled and collapsed. That's why we are seeing so many changes in these three countries right now. And this is good news for the law-abiding, because the law-abiding don't benefit anywhere where the resources of their country are extracted from it and they get nothing for it.
People here don't care. Donald Trump don't care. Delcy Rodriguez. People are on survival.
Survival mode.
Yeah.
Survival mode all day.
It's so interesting because, of course, you're exactly right. And now I remember just 3 years ago having to learn about Tren Aragua.
That was crazy.
It was such a new thing. But tell us about the organization itself. Is the organization itself built so that this leader can be replaced?
Okay, so before we get into that, understand that Tren Aragua totally blows the narrative that cartels and criminal activity are the fault of the United States and that this is just how the world works. That narrative, Tren de Aragua blows it out of the water because they're a new gang. When they first started coming into the United States during the asylum crisis, people weren't really sure what they were. Law enforcement didn't really know how to identify them. What they were going to do once they got here remained to be seen. Now we know, but these guys are a new threat. They sprang up overnight. And why did that happen? Did that happen because the United States exists? Or did that happen because they were living in a country where Nicolas Maduro allowed them to escape from prison? A prison which they were running, by the way, in Aragua, which is where their name comes from, and then flood the rest of our hemisphere with state-sponsored mayhem. That's what happened here. If you have sanctuaries for criminals, crime is only going to increase. You don't stamp out crime by ignoring it, as progressives and socialists love to tell us, and by saying, oh, well, that's just how that country works. Just leave them alone. The United States is an evil country. What right do we have to tell some country like Venezuela what to do? No, if you have criminals that are somewhere getting help from their government and then they leave that country and commit crime elsewhere, that's a problem for the entire world.
Venezuelan authorities confirming their part in the operation, intelligence sharing, and technical support.
Gang known as Tren de Aragua.
The Trump administration designating Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization. Federal prosecutors in New York charging Guerrero last year. He's named as a co-conspirator in the indictment against former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who was captured and brought to the U.S. in January to face.
So these guys were playing on the same team, the dictator of Venezuela and these criminal gang leaders. But think of what a massive development this is. Just 6 months ago, the idea of Venezuela not being a sanctuary for criminals wasn't on anyone's radar, especially the bad guys, and especially the people who've accepted a dangerous status quo that ruins our entire hemisphere and steals from the law-abiding in places like Venezuela. But now the government of this country is on the right side of history. And how did that happen? Did it happen by accident, or did it happen because America exists and decided to finally do something about it? You see, this is where the idea of American leadership comes in. Had the U.S. done nothing but allow Nicolas Maduro to continue getting rich, we wouldn't be talking about any of this. The country of Venezuela would still fail to benefit its own people because it is stolen from them each and every day by a despotic regime of criminals and gangs who run the place and flood other countries in Central and South America and try to come into the United States and do things like take over apartment buildings. This whole thing was unsustainable. But Venezuela is not the only country right now that is being looked at for potential military action. Watch this.
And including in Mexico, how they're going to do more and are doing more than we've ever seen before.
That includes, as we just heard, on land in Mexico?
Well, on land, you have a 95% reduction in illegal activity in between the ports that the Border Patrol is seeing every day. So that's almost 100% increase in the capability on, like in the first days of this administration. That capability increases every single day, right? More hours on patrol, more equipment to sense activity. All of those things are leading to a safer border. And this policy change with no releases in over 13 months at the border of people that came in illegally.
Well, and the numbers reflect that success.
You know what's so fascinating about this? Here we have the common sense solution to criminals running rampant. Do something about it. Arrest the bad guys. Patrol the area. Make sure nobody's playing games doing things that are illegal. And what happened? What did he just say? A massive reduction in the number of people who are doing things, the above ground operations of these criminal organizations, those are just vanishing. Why? Because the criminals now fear a consequence. There was no consequence before for these gangs and criminals to do anything. The only consequence for them was if they didn't do anything, some other criminal group would take away an opportunity from them, would conquer territory, would make all kinds of money illegally. That's the consequence. So previously, they were rewarded for their criminal behavior. Now they face a consequence for it. That's a good thing for people who aren't criminals. Speaking of which, look at what Venezuela allowed to happen, which turbocharged this Tren de Aragua group to begin with.
Guerrero has escaped from this Venezuelan prison at least twice, and even from the inside, according to State Department filings, expanded the gang Tren de Aragua's influence transnationally, controlling gold mines and border crossings between Venezuela and Colombia.
Wow. So not only was this gang allowed to run rampant and take over a prison, after they were able to get out of this prison, what did they do? They created a transnational criminal enterprise. Now, does that sound like something that can happen in a country that has itself under control? Does that sound like it can happen in a country where the people running it exist in opposition to gangs and criminals like that? Or is it something that can only happen if you get help and if you're allowed to do it. That's what we were witnessing here. We're witnessing cartels and gangs running a country in South America, which made everything worse for South America. And of course, if that's the situation, if that's the status quo, people are going to flee these countries. People are going to want to live somewhere else. People are going to be willing to break immigration law and come to America, even if Trump's the president, because their homes are being destroyed. But that's being allowed to happen by these criminal governments that shouldn't be there in the first place. But there's another aspect to all of this. Now that crime is on the run in places like Venezuela and places like Mexico, you have things appearing in areas of these countries that were unthinkable just a few months and years ago. Look at this. Brazil, Venezuela, and Guyana are fueling this massive oil export boom in South America, something that never would have happened before. And with Venezuela having the largest proven reserves in the entire world, this area of the globe is going to be where the entire world comes to get this vital natural resource that runs every single country on Earth. Think about what that means for geopolitics. That's going to make the Strait of Hormuz irrelevant. It's not going to be a place where people need to go like they used to. Yes, if it's cheaper to ship out of the Strait of Hormuz, your country still might want to do that. But hey, if there's plenty of oil in South America, if it's easy to get, if it's all over the place, if the price drops, this is where everybody's going to come. They're coming right now. And that is going to mean that these countries, for the first time ever, have the ability to become modern leaders of our entire world. Think about that. And even if you don't want to extrapolate in your mind the few years that it's going to take for this all to get going, look at what's happening in Mexico right now.
Trump says the border's out of control and overrun by crime.
Vive en Estados Unidos. Was.
Okay, sale. Adelante. But on a Saturday night in Mexicali, it's a different picture.
Yeah, because the
crime's border city is shaped by generations of Chinese migrants. Residents from neighboring Calexico on the Californian side cross back and forth with ease.
I was born and raised in California, but I've got family here, so I come over often.
Pretty much everything. We come here for our medical appointments.
There's more choice when it comes to food and going out.
Look at how safe things are over here. Look at what happens. You get rid of criminal organizations and businesses have the ability to thrive. The law-abiding want to come out and bring economic activity to places like this. And what did these two women say? They said they leave California to come to Mexico for medical appointments. What a great thing for affordability law and order is. If you think healthcare is out of control in America and you think these healthcare companies are ripping people off, well, this is something that finally introduces some competition to a medical system that is so bloated, it's just getting whatever it wants from all of us. And think of what this means. This means that the doctor, the business, the restaurant, the infrastructure in Mexico benefits from legal economic activity. People are not entering and leaving Mexico and California illegally. Things are orderly. Things are safe. Criminals are nowhere to be found. But if you reopen the border and let criminals take over, all of these businesses that you see here, they're all going to be under threat. They're all going to have to start paying money to these criminals for protection. These criminals will show up and immediately start draining the wealth from this area. They are going to go after these businesses. They are going to steal from them. They are going to hit them up constantly. There's going to be crime flooding the streets. People aren't going to come here. The whole thing is going to implode, and it's just going to keep the criminals in power. Why do we want a situation that does that? Why do we want to put the law-abiding in danger where they live? We shouldn't want to do that. That's not how you lift people out of poverty. Law and order is the solution to people living in a desperate situation, because criminals create those desperate situations, just like they did in Venezuela for decades. But
Mamdani is an ignorant, foolish person whose evilness is displayed on his face every time he talks. He's a mass manipulator. He has no reasonableness to what he's saying.
Where has socialism ever succeeded? If it resonates within the Democratic Party, but it doesn't have a snowball's chance of resonating in the general election, then you're basically handing the presidency to the GOP in 2028. That's what you're doing.
I got to tell you guys about Verdict Bourbon. You know, it's a bourbon that's smooth, it's full of character, absolutely incredible. We've had people try it, review it, and the feedback has been incredibly amazing. So if you really struggle, that's not a part of the cause, and then going out there and regurgitating stuff that they learn and find out if you're guilty or not guilty. You must be 21 and over, and make sure you drink responsibly. Don't be a dummy. All right, Stephen A. Smith, here's the next story we're going to talk about. Mamdani. Stephen A. Smith is articulating why he thinks that what Mamdani is doing is foolish. Now, one thing I disagree with Stephen A. Smith, because Stephen A. Smith said he liked Mamdani. Mamdani is a terrorist. Mamdani is an is an ignorant, foolish person who evilness is displayed on his face every time he talks. He's a mass manipulator. He has no reasonableness to what he's saying. This is just one of those kids that was I would call him a trust fund, even though I don't know if he was rich from a trust fund, but I know his parents were wealthy, or at least his mom was. And you got somebody that never really struggled, that's not a part of the cause, and they're going out there and regurgitating stuff that they learned in school when they got brainwashed with $100,000 debt. And they're out here just saying the random stuff that make them feel good when they took classes at the university that's not applicable. I graduated with a degree in sociology. So obviously we learned about socialism in sociology class. And, when it was presented to me in college, it was an option, but the reality of capitalism was revealed as well. So what they're saying is historically, this is what socialism was. We live in a capitalist nation. This is why capitalism works. Here are the flaws of capitalism, and here's socialism, and here's the things why people believe in socialism. We were given an articulation in that way, not stupid enough to act as if socialism is a structure that can be applicable in the United States of America. It will never work. The foundation of this country is capitalism. That's the reason why we got to this point. We would have never been here if we had been a socialist nation. You can't name a socialist nation that's profiting and more successful than the United States of America. You can't name one in the history of existence of humanity. All right, Stephen A. Smith, roll it.
Let's be real about something here. You have a whole bunch of people in office that's scared to lose their seats, and you've got Democratic voters that are leaning towards voting for these people. And so as a result, they got to figure out a way to get those people back on their side. They're not going to vote Republican. They're going to vote Democrat. But if Mamdani is running as a Democrat, even though he's a Democratic socialist, and he's preaching about affordability, okay, and the working class, that's something that they want to hear because they're the ones that feel left out right now. And so that's what the message is. Whether it's him or the people that he endorses. Remember, the people that Hakeem Jeffries endorsed lost to the people that Mamdani endorsed. So obviously he's gaining traction. His profile, his cachet, his significance is growing, and nobody can ignore that. So as a result, how are you going to deal with that?
And let me just translate this a little bit, and I get some more Stephen A. Smith clips. They're manipulating you. That's like if I had a 5-year-old, which I have a kid that's a 5-year-old. And I know what I can tell him because you got to think I'm much smarter. I'm more advanced because I'm an adult and my brain is fully formed. And there are people in society that take advantage of others who are not as advanced psychologically. And so what do? They get young people who are vulnerable mentally, and then they lie to you and tell you everything they know you want to hear. That's just like if I want my son to do something, I say, son, if you go do this, I'll give you a take 5. He don't have to process how I get to take 5. He don't have to process the cost of a take 5. He don't have to process how much sugar going into his body and how crazy it's going to make him. Right. And you know what I'm saying? And he's going to be moody and all kind of stuff. He's not processing none of that. All it is that his brain and the way he's developed so far and that sugar intake makes him feel like I will do anything for sugar. He don't have to think about consequences. That's why adults should teach their children the consequences. Just like our leaders who have had a tremendous amount of experience, who are educated, who allegedly should be high IQ, should be articulating to the public, here are the risk factors and getting exactly what you think you want. I look at this thing just like God. When you go to God and you say, God, I want to be rich. Or God, I want this, I want that. And then you go through something and you're like, God, see, I thought you was going to give me that. No, God is trying to show you these skill sets you will need if you really want what you say you wanted. And in a lot of cases, people don't get what they want because they don't realize that's not what you really want. You want peace. You want prosperity. You want good relationships. And the crazy thing you ask God for is not going to get you what you want in your heart. Same thing with this stuff. Free stuff sounds good, but that's not the end of the story. Your taxes are going to go up. It's going to be a lot harder for you to get health care. It's going to be a lot harder for you to get served and seen. We've seen it happen in Canada. When you give everybody free stuff, nobody has good quality stuff. It's just the way it is. Here's another clip from Stephen. Roll it.
Did you see what else Mamdani said? Said, quote, we don't have to ask ourselves what life looks like if a socialist wins. I won last November. And over the course of these last 6 months, what we've delivered for working people are the very things we were told were impossible. And we've done all of these things while also delivering the lowest recorded crime in our city's history. That's what it looks like to have democratic socialism. And what you're seeing is that New Yorkers experienced this for 6 months and made the decision that they wanted to see more of it on the national stage as well. I'm not buying that yet, but it sounds damn good. What I want to know is that when you freeze rent, what else have you frozen?
Preach.
Have you frozen the price of equipment? Have you frozen maintenance? Have you frozen those things? Because those things still need to happen, and it costs. Nothing's free. And if you're talking about taxing, and more taxing, excuse me, you're going to run businesses out of New York City, and then ultimately, where's the money going to come from?
Right.
To develop a middle class, let alone pay them.
Come on, y'all.
That's how I'm looking at things. Obviously, he's looking at it a bit differently, which is why I'm doing this segment, because I can't wait to talk to him. I've been anxious to have him on the show to ask him some of these questions. I'm waiting to see whether or not he's going to accept it and what he's going to have to say once he ultimately does. Because in the end, the money has to come from somewhere. Nothing is free, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely, positively, nothing is free.
Nothing.
If you're not paying, it's because somebody else is. And if you want to say it's the wealthy that's going to be paid, well, if they're taking their asses out of New York City, who's going to be here to pay it? Eventually, it'll trickle down to that middle class that was supposed to be being spared. And where's that going to leave the city? These are just questions. I'm not pretending to have the answers. I don't know. But they're legitimate questions that I need answers to, coming from a proud, renowned democratic socialist like Zohran Mamdani.
I agree. So look, this is what I would perceive in this situation. Now, Mamdani's going to go in there and slick talk and say everything he needs to say, because but is it going to be contested with somebody who's an economic expert, right? Does it have to be an expert? No, it could be somebody with common sense. But the weight of what somebody says that's an expert in economics would articulate very clearly and disprove everything Mamdani is saying. I want you guys to realize this, because you guys have been following me for a very long time. Understand that I've been in different phases of life financially, and also I know people that are far beyond me financially. People who are rich, who are making millions of dollars, you got to think a lot of them are business owners and entrepreneurs, or they're older. They've invested their money over time, and now their net worth is millions, or they're living off millions of dollars that they have in the stock market. So a lot of these people are doing that, or they own real estate and different things like that. The rich people can afford to move. The average person cannot fathom what people are doing that makes millions of dollars a year. Those people are paying majority of the taxes in that state. All is going to happen is that they have the ability and incentivized, they have been incentivized to leave and go to places like Florida. The average person can't get up and just move. The average person can't just leave a regular job that they're working on, that they've been working on for so many years, just to get to where they're at financially. Rich people can move. And I'm not saying I'm rich, but if I wanted to today, I could move out of Arizona in 30 days and live anywhere in the country that I want. And therefore, if Arizona, and there's tens of thousands of people, all you got to do is go on Zillow and look at the multi-million-dollar houses in your city. Somebody living in them. Somebody got the money to pay for them. And that's a lot of people.
Yep.
They're just going to move out of New York. And then what happens when the capital moves out of the city? How are you going to run socialism with no capital? I'm telling you, y'all think it's a game. I forget his name now.
It's not a game.
Two major billionaires moved out of New York City. One has a $200 million house in New York City, and he's going to move his headquarters to Florida. It's a $4 billion investment in a building headquarters that they're building right on the water in Florida. It's going to be tons of millionaires moving out of Florida. Moving out of New York. Diamond.
Right, Freedom.
No, Ken Griffin and Jamie Dimon.
Yeah, New York is in trouble, man. I can play videos And more videos of New York in trouble by voting for Mamdani. I'm going to play that video next, too. New York is in trouble, man. Whoever's defending New York, you must don't live in New York.
Those are two people that have openly mentioned that they're moving their headquarters.
It's like Chicago, they regret
out
voting
of
for
New
him.
York City. They're not going to live there, and they're moving their people out of New York City over time. They're not.
Oh, I'm going to show it. Don't worry. Ain't no rush.
Future of their company in New York City. It's going to hurt New York City, man. I'm telling you, and you'll see it. And then by the time you see it, they're going to keep making excuses of why Donald Trump and everybody else is the problem, why socialism didn't work.
No rush. Let's stay in the chat. Don't
This is one more clip, Mamdani clip from Stephen A. Roll it.
If you're a Democrat in the United States, particularly in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is coming. And if he's coming, what does that mean for the rest of America?
Let me not say that. That means you're getting screwed.
Hey, this is my chat. I'm going to finish my video when I need to finish my video. So don't rush me.
For all the dotes in the room, you know what I'm saying. If Mamdani is... What does
I
that
live
mean?
stream about 3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
I ain't going nowhere.
Because I got questions. Where has socialism ever succeeded? If so, tell us where that is. How is it going to succeed in New York? How are you going to sell that in a capitalistic society? You might do it in New York with young voters. What about the people in the suburbs? What about them? You really think this kind of message is going to resonate with them? Because, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about here is this. If it resonates within the Democratic Party, but it doesn't have a snowball's chance of resonating in a general election, then you're basically handing the presidency to the GOP in 2028 as well.
All right, so let me explain real quick, and then we're going to move on to a super chat. We got a super chat from Poppy Shampoo. So let me just explain this real quick. They don't care that the community at large isn't accepting socialism. It's a boiling pot theory. They warm you up with it. They trick you into it because they have a plan that later on it will be more accepted. They are not trying to win. They're trying to indoctrinate you and get you comfortable with the reality of stupidity. And over time, the stupid generation that's willing to select Mamdani or elect Mamdani as the mayor will be stupid enough to elect another socialist as the president of the United States of America. And then we're going to have to crumble as a country. And then they're going to be praying to God that we get another capitalist in. That's what's going to happen. All right, Poppy Shampoo, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, been following you for a while. Watch all of your videos. Thank you for speaking the truth. God bless you, man. These Democrats are ruining a great country. At least they trying. But it's going to take all of us to stand together and make this right.
To a major takedown involving 5 different criminal operations in the South Bronx. More than 30 people busted for their roles in crime rings that for years have terrorized the community.
So, criminal cartels have taken over areas of Brooklyn and the Bronx where they've been wreaking havoc for years. Which should come as a surprise to absolutely no one, especially New York's socialist mayor, who, while these criminals are getting arrested, is busy bragging about his plans to keep this place a sanctuary forever. But critics say if that happens, things in New York could...
Black MAGA are the dumbest people. Thanks for being in the chat, man. I guess I'm a dumb person because you in the chat too, so I guess you stupid. Welcome to the chat, man. Watch the video and learn something before you criticize who I am. Name is Deunta. Everybody is welcome. If you're not MAGA, who cares? Welcome to the chat. Let's watch these videos together and grow and learn. Agree or disagree. Let's get it.
Get even worse.
And how bad has it been? This area used to be really tough.
Residents, shoppers, businesses, passerbys had to endure at all hours of the day.
You know, I'm the mayor of a city of 8.5 million people. More than 3 million are immigrants, and I'm one of them. And yet what we've seen this federal administration's policies do is wreak havoc across our city. And it's not just on those who do not have documentation. Frankly, it breeds a sense of fear among so many who call the city home, where they don't know if they're going to step out of their home and be profiled.
Well, it is being called one of the largest gang busts in the history of Brooklyn.
They're singing and rapping and celebrating. 4 guys in the car, all armed.
Easy baby locked up. Somebody got to do this again.
They also voted to defund our law enforcement. So what you're really going to get here, true blue socialists, people who really do want to see our country looking more like Venezuela.
We have to use every tool in the toolbox to make sure that we abolish ICE and keep our immigrant neighbors safe.
So, the socialists now have a firm grasp on the capital of capitalism, New York City, and that's going to be a problem. Because what nobody's talking about is the more the party of higher taxes and open borders wins, the more New York City itself is going to lose. And these socialists have come into office as champions of affordability and the little guy. But the reality is the nightmare they're creating is the least affordable anywhere in America.
How was the left wing attacking somebody, killing somebody?
That essentially evict the little guy before he can even think about entering the middle class, all while our leaders continue bragging that this city is a sanctuary first and foremost, which exists in absolute rebellion to the federal government and its laws, which they despise. But here's the problem with that. There is no sanctuary city anywhere in America that is a sanctuary city, yes, but has an ironclad justice system that prosecutes violent offenders, refuses to release them, and has overall safe streets. That does not exist anywhere. The sanctuary city is always icing on top of the cake of decriminalization, which essentially lets slide a whole bunch of other types of crimes that do absolutely.
Right, using your race is a stupid argument, period. We are all one human race. What's the problem? I'm an American, period.
Nothing but make the streets more dangerous. We're talking about no more prosecutions or jailing for things like assaults, robberies, retail thefts. And when you add to that laws like New York's bail reform, which allows repeat offenders to pass through a revolving door jail and get back out on the streets minutes after their 100th arrest, you end up with a public safety disaster. And when the social justice benefits imagined by these policies fail to materialize, there's only one step remaining, which brings us to the real reason the border czar keeps talking about a surge of ICE agents that is on the way to New York City. Once your city becomes a sanctuary that wants to hide people who've broken America's laws from the federal government while sometimes paying them to stay in your city, it may have passed the point of no return. And there's only one way to bring it back or take it back from criminal elements that should not exist on the streets and should not be emboldened by policies and laws that protect their behavior at the expense of the law-abiding, who are not made safer by a system that looks around every single day to find laws it does.
Well, I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for no money. I got 4 boys, you know what I'm saying? And I want boys to know that America is great. And my boys to know they're not no fucking victims. You know what I'm saying? We're not no victim. I'm not a slave. My ancestors were slaves. That was years ago. I'm not a slave. I never experienced anything slavery at all. I've been called nigger by my own color. And that's crazy. So no, I'm on this platform to make sure my boys know, you know what I'm saying? America is good and there's good people here. And vote with common sense. Facts over feelings.
Doesn't like, and then either decriminalize them or just stand in opposition to them, because the criminals who break these laws are viewed as victims of somebody like Donald Trump. But as ridiculous as all this sounds, Mayor Mamdani is out there taking a victory lap after his DSA, Democratic Socialists of America candidates, swept the local primaries and are now going to help run the federal government of America.
People are MAGA for different reasons. Like, yo guys are Democrats for different reasons. This whole Democrat socialist, that sounds very stupid. I'm a MAGA because I love America. Other people are MAGAs for other reasons. But I'm MAGA because I love America first. Once again, I have a passport. I've been overseas. I've been through the States. And I love America, period. And I had different foods, live in different places. And nothing like America, period. These countries overseas, they can control the power, cut your power off, your food and all that. But out here in America, that stuff is unlimited. You guys seen the people from the World Cup happy to come to America and see how they can go to our grocery stores and see how we have abundance of food with no problem. How we eat, especially how we eat. We get buffets. They ain't got no buffets out there like that overseas in some of these countries. They was excited to come to America, eat our ice cream, go to our buffet, see our games. You know, they was happy. They've been lied to through the media.
And do you think he's moderating his positions now?
You know, I'm the mayor of a city that.
Right, Lincoln. You know what I'm saying? Ended slavery. Lincoln had reparations for us, and he also had 40 acres and a mule. He got assassinated, and Andrew Johnson, a Democrat, shut it down. Just Google it.
8.5 million people, more than 3 million are immigrants, and I'm one of them. And yet what we've seen this federal administration's policies do is wreak havoc across our city. And it's not just on those who do not have documentation. Frankly, it breeds a sense of fear amongst so many who call the city home, where they don't know if they're going to step out of their home and be profiled.
So if you listen to the mayor of New York, every single immigrant here, whether they're here legally or illegally, lives in constant fear, including himself, of being profiled by Donald Trump. What a weird statement. There's no way that's true. But to people who've decided they hate the president and want communism, it sounds true enough, and that's all that matters.
You know, I've been clear that I'm proud of our sanctuary city status. It is a status that we have had in this city for decades. It's also a status that, when there's the conviction of more than 170 serious crimes, does allow for coordination with the federal government on that. However, beyond that, that is something that we have made clear. We are not going to allow this city to become the civil immigration enforcement arm of a federal government.
When does that happen in this sanctuary city? I would like a specific example of when dangerous fugitives have been turned over to ICE by the Mamdani administration for committing any sort of crime. Haven't heard one yet. And you know what? The candidates the mayor is endorsing have beliefs that go even further than what he's saying. They don't believe in deportations at all, under any circumstances, even if the person being deported has a dangerous criminal history. They want our justice system to deal with this, and then they want that person made a legal resident of America. Watch.
Under normal circumstances, undocumented defendants charged with crimes go through the system, and if convicted, they get deported before or after serving time. Ms. Chevalier, you recently said on WNYC radio that defendants who commit crimes should not be deported after serving time. Why is that?
Because we have a criminal system. It's an imperfect system. It's an imperfect criminal system that I've been critical of, but we have one. And if we truly believe in a system where we don't have double jeopardy on the basis of where someone was born, then we cannot also have a system of punishment that is unique to people who were born elsewhere. We need to make sure that if we really value equality in this country, that we are treating people equally, regardless.
That is such a ridiculous statement. These people, they want to reward criminals who've come here illegally and then committed another crime with permanent residency. That's bizarre. They want somebody to come here and do something, rob a store, rob CVS, and then get hauled before a court, get convicted, get their misdemeanor slap on the wrist, and then now they can stay forever. That is totally antithetical to law and order. That is totally against the idea of America being a sovereign nation. But these are New York's representatives. These are the people that are headed to Congress to help run America. They might even be on intelligence committees. And this is going to be an absolute disaster for this city itself, where voters want more of this, not less.
Adami had 3 races to run, and they're going not against Republicans, against Hakeem Jeffries and establishment Democrats, and he won all 3. And these are extreme candidates. These aren't just a candidate with more charisma, less charisma, different stances on spending. This is dramatic. In fact, Mamdani, they write this in the New York Times. The outcome will only force the Democratic Party, already searching for an identity, to reckon with an ascendant, unapologetic left, they should say socialists, in endorsing challengers to longtime incumbents. The mayor directly took on Hakeem Jeffries, a Brooklyn native who hopes to become the next Speaker of the House and represents the Democratic establishment. Neither Valdez nor Avila Chevalier have committed to backing the congressman in his bid for Speaker should Democrats win back the majority in November.
Yeah, but
what are they saying?
But here's the thing. Even if the Democrats win the House, Hakeem Jeffries is not going to be Speaker.
Look, the problem that you have here is the people that are taking over the Democrat Party and are taking over New York City do not want anything to do with America whatsoever. And the Democrat Party doesn't really have much of an identity. And this is their new identity, an anti-American agenda. And these people, it's not like they're voting differently. Are they radical candidates? Yes. But the only difference between them and the people who are Democrats today is they're just not hiding it anymore. What's different about how they're going to vote? Are the Democrats now voting for a closed, secure border? No, they don't want to see anybody get deported either. They want everyone to be able to stay here forever. They don't think that somebody that Trump wants to deport is actually a criminal. And if Trump says somebody's a gang member who's got an MS-13 tattoo, they say, nope, that person's not a gang member. That person's a Maryland father. They should be able to stay here forever. So the voting's not going to change. The only difference is there is zero apology about it. And these candidates, they might take things a step further.
To vanquish Trump's fascism, to abolish ICE, and to stand up to the billionaires.
Stand up to the billionaires.
Free Palestine. Organize your union. And join DSA.
What we have delivered here today is a clear mandate that the era of taking a check and cashing a check and calling it representation is over.
This is crazy. And you hear all of this applause for what?
Right.
For doing things that make America more dangerous and less safe. If you're going to tell criminals they can break the law and live in your city and hide from the federal government, that is going to encourage criminals to come here. And when those criminals come here, these very same people, they want to see them do something, get released, and then get to stay here forever. So they want a reward system for illegal immigration. And they want to bring that reward system not just to the sanctuary that is New York, which is now full of gang activity, which has gangs in Brooklyn and Queens and all over the place wreaking havoc on our streets. They want to bring that.
Right, Florida. Just those the same one that's cheering be the same one's gonna be leaving and complaining. Oh, I didn't vote for this. Oh, I didn't vote for this. You said it's gonna be free. What happened? Nothing is free, you idiot. These people are lazy, man. America, some people in America have gotten lazy. On the real.
What's happening here to the
Escape from
entire
New York.
country. And
That's a good movie too with Kurt Russell. Good movie. That's what's going on, man.
something that people here have to realize is a big problem. If you're not going to go vote, if you're not going to participate in your elections, well, guess what? These people, they're going to get out there and participate. They're going to vote. They're going to do everything they can to win.
New York is New York. It's the media capital, the financial capital. It is a bellwether like no other city is in this country. So don't tell me that who the mayor of New York is doesn't matter.
Let me play devil's
than
advocate for a second. Do you think, let's say, on the seize the means of production, do you think that the mayor, that one person, if he's a democratic socialist, do you think that he would have the power and influence to be able to usher in socialism?
He definitely has the power and influence to elect J.D. Vance or whoever is the Republican candidate next time. It is a walking commercial for the Republican Party nationally. When you let the Democrat socialists.
Some of y'all in this chat have never been overseas, have never even traveled outside y'all states. And y'all just be on here just saying anything, just trolling, I see. That's a shame, man. Y'all get on these keyboards and these phones and be lying and stunning and trolling and being bots. This channel is about facts and common sense. Bots, all that. I can go to another channel being a bot. But have anybody been to Florida? The one that's distant Florida. Have y'all been to Florida? Because people in New York are going to Florida.
And now they're actually calling themselves social. When you let them take over a major American city, this is what you get. The state-run grocery stores, which work so well in Cuba.
Right, he's got a very good point here. Because as the
Bill
people
was
in
a
New York
classical
City
liberal.
cheer and applaud and go
Now he
full-on
changing his mind.
communist and just want more and more and more of this radicalism, it is music to their ears. The more that happens here in New York City, the more people that live outside of New York City are going to look at this and say, you know what, these radical candidates, I don't know if I want to vote for these people. I don't know if I want this party picking my president. I don't know if I want this party controlling U.S. foreign policy. What do you think would happen to U.S. foreign policy if people like this were running it? Do you think we would have more regimes in the world pursuing a path that might be dangerous to the rest of the world, or less of those? What do you think that would mean for world peace and world safety and the safety of our country, because remember, America is the enemy of many of these regimes that are out there and this political parties.
This is your victory. What you all have shown this evening, whether for state assembly, state senate, or Congress, is that a year ago, it was not the end of a political movement. It was the beginning. And let's hear it for a politics. For a politics that will never forget working people. For a politics that is ready to write a new chapter in our party's history.
Well, how does socialism
Bay
never
Area, why
forget
you like
working
Florida?
people?
What's
It
wrong with Florida,
eliminates
Bay
the
Area?
businesses that those working people had jobs at. So what do you mean this is some politics that doesn't forget working people? Perhaps what he means is that it remembers them all right, because it's going to bring them into the cold embrace of communism and totally change their life forever, which apparently is what the people in New York City want, because they are all in on this. And when you look on stage here and you remember the radical beliefs, these individuals have espoused, which got them elected. This is the walking, talking commercial that Bill Maher is talking about for the Republican Party. And how do you think this is going to affect people who might live in a swing state like Pennsylvania that elected Fetterman? Do you think somebody that comes in there and is essentially a clone of Karl Marx is going to resonate with average people who do not want communism? This could be a massive disaster for this political party on a national scale. And what you could end up having are these hotspots of socialism: New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and then the rest of the country, Portland, Oregon, of course. But then the rest of the country is like, I don't want this. We've got Venezuela, we've got Cuba, we've got these regime governments all over the place destroying these major American cities. I'm going to vote against that where I live.
Once posted on Twitter that she forgot napkins, so she wiped her hands on the American flag, and she and the others are poised to be sitting members of Congress. What is your
Bay Area legend? Are you listening to the videos or are you just trolling in the chat? I don't get it. How y'all not watch the video? I'm glad you're engaging in the chat, but are you listening to the video? What's going on? I guess not.
reaction to this and why the socialist movement is growing right now?
Well, there's no getting around it that this was a very good night for the DSA, for the Democrat Socialists of America. And I think what should concern everyone is that this is a growing movement. Remember, the DSA has grown 10% in membership since February. They have been chalking up wins at the local and county level in red states like Arizona, Kansas, Iowa. So these congressional seats are simply the next step in the process of them consolidating power and becoming less of a fringe movement on the left than moving towards becoming what is now the establishment Democratic Party.
That's exactly what's happening. But who is to blame for this? You know who it is? It would be the public school system in this country, because the public school system in this country has taught people for long enough now that America is evil and America is unjust and America is rigged and capitalism doesn't work. And if you come from an average upbringing, there's no way you'll get ahead. There's no way you'll ever be president. There's no way you'll ever start a business. The deck is rigged against you. Therefore, you should hate every single thing about this country and actively rise up to resist it. We've indoctrinated people with that belief system, and now they're old enough to vote. Who are they voting for? Are they going to vote for a system they've been taught their entire life by their parents and their teachers is a rigged system that only allows somebody who's rich like Jeff Bezos to get ahead, even though he started Amazon decades ago in a closet somewhere with an internet connection over dial-up? These are not people who support the American dream. They don't think it exists because they've been lied to and they've been harmed by their upbringing, and now they're bringing that upbringing to the ballot box. But President Trump says the communists are finally making their move. I've been waiting and preparing for this for a long time. It's easy to be a communist. All you have to do is say, I'll give you everything. And then he said,
the Independent Rent Guidelines Board just froze the rent. That means if you're one of the more than 2 million New Yorkers who lives in a rent-stabilized apartment, your rent's going to be frozen next year.
From the top of a balcony to down by the stage, rent-stabilized New Yorkers erupted in celebration. For the first time ever, the Rent Guidelines Board.
And this is Cash Jordan. He lives in New York. You know what I'm saying? So anybody saying, well, my facts are bogus, it ain't true, whatever it is, but, you know, I'm going to say this is true. He lives in New York. Why would he lie about New York? You know what I'm saying? going what they're going through. He's living it. He's right there with it. Cash Jordan, look him up. He was trying to warn people, do not vote for Mondani. He was trying to tell them, but they ain't listen. I think he got like 1 million followers. I think he do real estate besides political commentary like he doing now. So again, look him up. The man from New York, he lives in New York. I don't, but he right here letting us know what's going on. Mondani's no good.
Voted to freeze rents on both 1 and 2 year leases. A historic decision that means more than 1 million New Yorkers living in rent stabilized apartments won't pay $1 more in rent for the next 2 years. All but one board member voted in favor of the measure, with Mayor Zohran Mamdani calling it a historic victory for New Yorkers.
It means everything. It means that our voices were heard finally.
Bronx tenant Ann Maiden says she can finally breathe again.
But landlords called the whole process a sham.
A sham?
Just hours before the vote, Christina Smith, a member of the board who represented landlords, resigned from her post, accusing the panel of ignoring data because it was required to deliver a freeze. Building owners say the decision means there will be less investment in maintenance and repairs, ultimately hurting renters.
So the renters lose.
To lay off some of the supers. Only choice. It's a business. People don't get it.
I'm so proud of people my age and young people getting together and forming coalitions.
But they don't understand. This just doomed New York City's supply of apartments. There will now be less apartments for multiple reasons, and here's the biggest one.
I feel like I'm standing in a time capsule from the 70s. This is a one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx that rents for $811 a month.
Okay.
That's if the landlord were to actually put it up for rent. This is a rent-stabilized apartment, but look around. The landlord says there is so much work that has to be done here to bring it up to code that it doesn't make financial sense to rent it out.
The owner is deciding to lose less money by just keeping it vacant.
Chipped and peeling lead paint, an outdated bathroom, and that red carpet, far from luxurious.
Not exactly the red carpet people want to walk into.
Kenny Burgos is the CEO of the New York Apartment Association and advocates on behalf of landlords who own rent-stabilized apartments, like this one in Mount Eden. It's been vacant since the last tenant moved out around 2021.
And now its rent is frozen forever. So the laws in New York were already so bad. This place, which is pretty big, was being lived in by no one. And now that's definitely going to remain the case. But wait till you hear why.
Why is this apartment?
Was that person in the chat that was agreeing that New York is a good place to be at and live in right now that Mondani is the mayor? Where's that person at? That person got kind of quiet in the video, my first video showing Cash Jordan talking about how New York is trash. What happened to the person in the chat? Yep. He told me to play the video. I played it. He got quiet. That's crazy.
Vacant so many years later.
I'm playing the video.
Because
What
the
happened
law
to you in the
today
chat?
says that when the tenant
What
moves
was
out,
his
you
name?
still, of
Eric?
course, before law and after, you would
Eric.
have to upgrade and renovate this unit and bring it up to the current housing standard of 2026. The difference is now the law says we don't really care what you spend. You cannot change the rent for the previous tenants.
So it just sits there.
The state's rent laws got rid of the 20% vacancy bonus, where landlords could hike rents for new tenants.
It's really a crisis.
Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal, chair of the Housing Committee, voted for that bill.
We found that with the 20% vacancy bonus, it was an incentive for landlords to harass tenants out. Finally, we righted the scales. Landlords didn't like that, and what they said immediately after we passed it was, we're going to keep apartments off the market.
But that's reality. Reality says if your $800 apartment costs $100,000 to fix up and you can only charge $800 a month for it, you're not going to dump $100,000 into a losing investment. It's a business.
What do you say to that?
I say, what do they then say to landlords who have already gone bankrupt, who've already been in foreclosure?
Something definitely wrong here. The tug of war between landlords and tenants advocates leaves lifelong New Yorkers like Troy Williams caught in limbo.
I live in a tier 2 shelter right now, and that's why I have a voucher now, you know. And I'm really trying to, get back to where I was this time 2 years ago.
So just how many rent-stabilized apartments are sitting empty with low rents that need extensive repairs? Well, we actually just got an answer from the city's Department of Housing Preservation and Development. A survey found just under 2,500 units that have been vacant for a year or more, needing extensive repairs with rents below $1,000. Of course, these are units sitting empty when so many are desperate for an affordable place to live.
And that's just the units they know about. When this law passed back in 2019 that capped all these rents and said no more rent increases on the stabilized apartments when somebody moves out, even if you renovate, you know what landlords started doing? If they had a stabilized apartment right here and then next to it they had a free market apartment, when both were empty, guess what they did? They combined them and made the free market apartment much larger and jacked up the rent on the whole thing. So a lot of these apartments, when this law was passed, vanished and are never coming back. But it gets even worse because all the people celebrating, they don't understand where this is going to lead them.
It's just cosplaying fairness. This isn't real fairness.
Oh.
Jan Lee, whose family has owned this Chinatown building for nearly a century, is crying foul, accusing the Rent Guidelines Board of freezing rent despite mounds of data he says shows rising costs for landlords.
They're not even hiding the bias anymore. The mayor had campaigned on a rent freeze. He appoints 75% of the board, and now he's got his hand on the scale.
Just hours before Thursday's meeting, drama unfolded when Christina Smith, a member of the board who represented landlords, resigned from her post, accusing the process of being broken and unjust.
Which it is.
But it did little to sway the results. As the Rent Guidelines Board voted 7-1 in an historic first to approve a 0% increase on both 1- and 2-year leases.
So here's the thing you got to understand. In order for this to work, you can freeze the rents, sure. But what about freezing the taxes that the landlord pays? What about freezing the landlord's insurance, which goes up every single year? What about freezing the landlord's utility costs, which in New York are some of the highest in the entire country? Remember, these landlords, they have to pay for hot water, cold water, and heat, and all that stuff's going up. Meanwhile, rents are frozen. It does not make sense to rent these apartments out anymore. It makes sense to instead keep them off the market forever because you're losing money renting them to people.
Renters say the measure was necessary as they struggle to combat inflation and cuts to social services.
What about the landlord's inflation?
So much to really affect my life in a good way.
I feel very good because in New York, that's one of the biggest problems that we have. You know, rent is high and we really needed it stabilized.
Mayor Mamdani, who campaigned on freezing the rent, insisted the board's decision would be fair and impartial.
Okay, well, he appointed every single person on the board, but check this out. The $800 apartment we saw, if the rent were to go up 2% instead of 0, it would have been a $16 a month increase, which means the people cheering are happy about saving $20. Like, this is not even enough money to get yourself a Big Mac meal at a McDonald's in New York City. You can't even do that. So what are people saving? There is no savings here. On a $2,000 apartment, you're saving $40 a month. Like, is that money? Yeah, it is. But that kind of money doesn't go very far.
They let the emotions
Things are already so expensive, already so overpriced here. This doesn't actually help. But what it does is hurt. And maybe that's why the mayor is so excited about this.
Will ultimately hurt.
Yep. If we keep eroding one side of the equation, something's got to give, and the people in those buildings are going to suffer. So there has to be some kind of fairness and recognition of the math.
Landlords are always saying, like, it's wonderful. I know we want to have decent rent. But at the same time, landlords are like, we also have to maintain the building, and we have taxes, and we have all that stuff. So there are two sides to this story.
Absolutely.
Building's going to
A
collapse.
very valid discussion that's happening in New York City, which is, can landlords absorb this rent freeze for 2 years or even longer? And there's going to have to be some compromises that are made behind the scenes on how landlords are going to maintain those costs. Okay.
Yeah.
How do renters
compromises.
know if they live
That means firing people.
This is no longer just a city that is a playground for the rich. This is a city for the working people who make it run, and we are making it run for us.
But the rent's still too high for most people, and it's now it's frozen. It's going to stay that way.
Struggling to figure out how we're going to make ends meet.
For years, landlords have run this city, and this is like a new era of tenant power. We have a rent-free mayor. Hundreds of people came out and testified presence online. Like, landlords' days are over. Tenants are in power now.
Landlords' days are over.
It feels amazing.
Landlords who say they are struggling with rising costs like fuel and insurance, though, lambasting the decision.
Listen to this.
The process is such a farce.
We're going to have to cut back. We'll have to lay off people. We'll have to lay off some of the swoopers. Only choice. It's a business. People don't get it. This is a business. It's not a choice that you think this is for free.
So, rents just got frozen, so people who already have an $800 apartment can always have an $800 apartment instead of an $810 apartment next year. And what that means is the person who cleans the building just got fired because you know what? There's not enough money around to pay him anymore. Now the building stinks. Now it's going to start falling apart. What a disaster.
What up, Common Sense?
Mayor Mamdani made it a signature issue in his campaign, then followed through on his pledge to appoint half a dozen members of the 9-member board.
Buildings with rent-stabilized apartments saw their revenue.
So he appointed everyone on the board.
But while the outcome seemed like a foregone conclusion, it did not come without drama.
It was rigged.
This morning, Christina Smith, a board member appointed to represent landlords, abruptly resigned, claiming the mayor stacked the deck. The mayor, for his part, in a statement tonight, calling it a historic victory for tenants, adding, "This is the relief that working people across our city deserve."
Except for the working people who used to work on the buildings and now can't because they just lost their jobs. And look, as somebody that...
Not just, you say Democratic vote, what did it say? What'd you say? California and New York has the dumbest voters in the country. Shit, Illinois too. We might lose the Bears because they, you know what I'm saying, voted for Brandon Johnson and doggone Governor Fritzer. Jabba the Hutt. Shit crazy, man. Losing the Bears because they want to put the money on the illegals. Insane.
Used to live in a rent-stabilized apartment in New York City, in the exact same neighborhood where the mayor of New York himself used to live, Astoria, Queens. I can tell you that having one of these apartments, it might sound good at first, but it's actually a trap. It totally messes up your ability to stay upwardly mobile in New York because if you get into one of these places, my rent at the time was $1,800 a month. We got in, the increases were minimal, but when it came time for us to move into something else, all of the other rents had gone up astronomically outside of this stabilized place. So in order to jump to a bigger apartment, to an actual 2-bedroom, because our family was growing, we had to pay double the rent. We were not prepared for that. It was a massive shock. In fact, the rent was more than double. It was $4,500 a month for the 2-bedroom we found after paying $1,800 a month. So people get trapped in these things and they can't move. And now, yes, the rents are frozen on these apartments, but here's what that's going to do. That's going to mean that the people who have them have even less of a reason to move. And if people aren't moving out of the places where they live, new people who do not have an apartment yet cannot move in to New York City. And when you have zero turnover, the rent on the tiny number of apartments that still exist is just going to go through the roof. It's going to go higher and higher. New York City is already breaking records for how high the rents are here on these market rate apartments. And if people can't find a place to live because nobody's willing to move out and no one has the ability to be upwardly mobile, that is essentially a tax on people that live.
Yeah, one thing about Chicago, they keep on voting for somebody that's black because they still trying to chase that Hale Washington, you know what I'm saying? Hale Washington from Chicago. They want to chase that guy. And blessings to him. I don't know everything about him. You know, I was born in 82, so the time he was around, I was still little. But yeah, they still trying to chase for him. I guess Hale Washington was a great guy as a Chicago mayor. But after that, these guys we had just terrible. Daley was okay. But the thing about Chicago is you got this whole doggone red light camera BS going on, speeding cameras, all that. So Chicago is getting money and taxing the shit out of people out there. And Brandon Johnson ran on the same thing Goofy Mamdani did. I'm not going to raise property taxes. I'm not going to do that. I love Chicago. I want to make sure Chicago is affordable. No, it's not. And then you got Obama putting his doggone presidential library in Chicago, and that costs money. And he ain't paid the people yet, supposedly. The people that said who did the building and the contract, they didn't get paid yet. That's crazy, man. Obama bogus in Chicago. Brandon Johnson is bogus as hell. Even we had Louis Lightfoot. We had her for COVID. We couldn't even go outside and kick it because during COVID time. You throw a barbecue and party, yeah, they call the cops and shut it down. They had it where your neighbor snitch on you. Hell, they got 5 people over there. They don't live in their house. They call a snitch on you, and they'll come in your house and shut the party down because you had people that wasn't living there in your house. This shit's stupid, man. Democrat Party is a party of corruption and control. No kings. They act like they the kings. On the real. The Democrat Party is a party of control, government. We don't need that government. No, we don't need it. Less government, the better. But the Democrat Party, they want to stay on them food stamps. They want to stay on Section 8. They want to be told what to do. They want to be told what to do. They want to stay poor. They don't want to get no money. They don't want to wake up in the morning and do these 9-to-5 jobs. I work a 12-hour shift when I go to work. 12-hour shifts when I go to work. Come on, man. Then I'm doing this YouTube thing. I go live just about, 4 days a week, if not more. And I do a 3 hours live stream, if not longer. You guys got to stop being lazy, America.
Live in New York City, a hidden tax, because if you want to leave, you're going to have to pay double the amount of rent. People cannot afford that. When it's time to move out or when it's time to get a bigger place, people either have to vanish or forego opportunities in life just to stay in a place that was built hundreds of years ago and is falling apart. What a nightmare. And what this basically means is the only way to stay in New York City now is to get a rent-stabilized apartment and to literally do nothing other than live there. Don't move in with other people. Don't get married. Don't have a family. Don't have a bunch of kids because you're not going to be able to fit.
You see, they don't understand why supply and demand. They want everything free. That's why they don't understand supply and demand. They want free shit. They don't want to work. They want to sit on their ass. And they keep on talking about what they built, what they've done. How you built anything, you sitting in your ass. Connected SNAP, Section 8. You ain't building America. You're not helping America out by being on Section 8 and SNAP. You're hurting us. You're not bringing money to the economy.
They're true leaders. Neither of them can run for president in 28.
Well, Mandami was here, as you know, twice. And he's a very nice guy. He's a charming guy, good-looking guy. We talk, but you can't raise taxes on people when you force them to leave your state or your city, and they're leaving and they're going to Florida. Most of them are going down to Palm Beach and Miami.
And that's the other end of this that nobody's talking about. So you've got these frozen rents. Yes, if you can get an apartment with frozen rent, you might be sitting pretty until the building you're sitting in ends up collapsing around you and you have to move out and you become homeless anyways. But the few people who end up earning enough money to move out of that apartment and pay much more for something else, if their life expands, well, they're going to get hit extra hard by all of the new taxes that are coming, which means they're going to have to move out or they're going to have to stay and pay exorbitant amounts of money to live in a city that essentially hates them and doesn't want to see people being upwardly mobile. And this is a massive problem because this frozen rent could really hurt the job market in New York City in ways that nobody's talking about either, because let's say that there are very few available apartments. Well, how do you expand your business in New York City? How does a company like JP Morgan?
Well, he talking about us MAGA, talking about Trump is our daddy. We crazy about Trump. Trump only got 2 more years to be president. So other than that, we not the same like these Democrat Party is. They want the government to tell them what to do. Keep voting against. I don't get it, man. Once again, I was a Democrat until I woke up. I'm red pill. I'm gonna stay red pill. No black pill, no blue pill. I'm gonna stay red. Period. Without Trump. Period. Staying red and voting red.
Bring in a whole bunch of people and build a new office and bring in a ton of jobs. You can't do that because there aren't places for people to live. And every single time buildings get built in New York right now, because rents are so expensive, most of the places that get built, what are they? They're 1-bedrooms, they're studio apartments. You might find a couple of 2-bedrooms. It was very hard for us to find the 3-bedroom apartment that we just moved out of because there are so few of these. And nobody wants to admit that what that means is if you have only studios and 1-bedroom apartments, and those are the entry-level apartments that are on the market that people can move into for $3,000-$4,000 a month, it's either that or it's a bedroom somewhere where you have a roommate. What that means is the only people that can come into to New York and even get established or start doing that are people who have no other entanglements. These are going to be single people, people who most likely just graduated college, people who are starting out in the workforce potentially. That means that if you start your company in New York or you want to expand your business in New York, you can really only expand entry-level positions. It's going to be a lot harder to bring in people who have talent and are already successful because perhaps those people have more entanglements in life. Perhaps they have a bunch of kids. Perhaps they have a big family. Perhaps they want to have more than just a shoebox somewhere, and shoeboxes are all that's available. It's going to be hard to attract top talent. Entry-level talent, yes, but top talent, no. And that's going to mean that companies that really want to do something and really want to accomplish something and want to pay people lots of money to come here, well, they're not going to be able to do that in New York because there's going to be nowhere for those people to live. It's not like we're going to have a whole bunch of rent-stabilized apartments popping up. Now, if anything, we're going to have even fewer of them, and nobody wants to admit that what this just did was basically give 2 million people a handout at the expense of everybody else who lives in this city. How is this any different than vote buying? If you're the mayor and you tell 2 million people that they're not going to get a rent increase if they elect you, why would they vote for somebody who doesn't tell them that? The only way that somebody in the mayoral election that brought the city, Mayor Mamdani, could have won would be to out Mamdani. Mamdani wants to freeze your rent. It's already July. If you elect me, I will freeze it. I'll bring it down. I'll pay you to live in this city, which is the only fair way to do this because this city's been stealing from you. These landlords are stealing from you, freezing them. This congresswoman desperately wants to.
Thank you for the super chat, Azriel. Thank you. Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys. You guys are a blessing, man. I don't ask for no super chat. I'm just sharing information with you guys, and I'm learning with you. I appreciate the super chats. Thank you. You guys help me get monetized to be here. You guys, I thank you. Thank you. Let's continue. Yeah, AFC, see you in trouble, man. Let's see what's going on.
Be our next president. Listen to this.
The problem that we have is that these big companies, they think they are governments. They want to be governments. They want to have totally unchecked power. And I believe that we need to pursue antitrust. We need to break up a lot of these companies that are far too big. And we also need to be instituting consumer protection.
Apple is attributing their price increases to the chip supply in the data centers.
Yeah.
Do you think the CHIPS Act that Congress passed has done enough to help consumers on this topic?
I mean, here's the thing is that...
Does she know what she's talking about?
I would say that the CHIPS Act was passed before we saw this huge development in AI. And so the CHIPS Act was really passed before data centers were a thing. So it wasn't designed to anticipate the huge amount of supply that these centers are sucking. Because of these data centers, a lot of people's electricity bills are going up, and now your ability to buy laptops, computers, iPads, electronics in general is going to go up because the data centers are sucking up all of our own industrial supply. And so, we're paying in a lot of ways. We are subsidizing the development of a lot of these pieces of these AI data centers.
Is there something that Congress you think should do to step in and afford some of these? What could be more?
Chat, it's been 2 hours and 50 minutes. I've been screaming with you guys. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. 2 hours and 50 minutes. We've been screaming. Thank you guys.
More price increases for consumers when it comes to these data centers?
Absolutely. I think we need to be taking a look
Like,
at
share, and subscribe
the
if you haven't
supplies of these
already.
markets and
Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate you guys.
making sure that everyday people aren't paying the price over and over and over again for the privatized profits of these AI companies.
She's fishing for the most emotional way to frame what is about to be a massive generator of jobs and growth for our entire country. But she wasn't done. Listen to this.
We don't quote unquote have the money for a better and improved social safety net because we let like Elon Musk gut Medicaid and gut Social Security in order for him to pay for A, his own tax cuts, and B, his own $1 billion in private federal contracts.
When did he do
this
any
guy
of that?
takes billions and billions of your tax dollars,
How?
of your public funds, They are.
How did he do that? He's not a politician.
Us of the tiny slivers of what we have left in our collective public social safety net.
This sounds insane. And when people asked Trump about what you just heard, he had a response that made people's heads explode. Watch this.
Are you worried about more socialist candidates across the United States?
It's a big threat to our nation.
Yep.
Actually, because it's not socialism; it's really communism. They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but
nope. It's not.
It's really communism you're talking about.
That's
I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe since our founding. That includes World War I, World War II.
Wow.
I think this is the biggest threat to our nation. People will smile when I say that, but the smart people are going to say, he's probably right.
He is. You know why? Because that threat is right here inside of our country, and it's been created by the brainwashing happening in our public education system. Speaking of which, New York City's mayor graduated from one of the best high schools in the Bronx, and listen to how he's doing.
This rent freeze is a disaster. It is going to destroy the economy in New York, but Zohran Mamdani probably knows this.
Maybe.
I don't think the man is unaware of Google. To get into a position of power like the mayor of New York City, you have to be smart. And that's why I don't believe these are accidents. I certainly believe these people want to burn the city down. They just use these sweet-sounding policies to do it. Put it this way. There's somebody who really hates you. So do they tell you you need to eat your vegetables, have some lean meats, and exercise? No. They tell you, why don't you just have as many donuts as you want? That person's not trying to help you. So here's what we can expect. With rent being frozen, who's going to do the maintenance? Where will the money come from to fix appliances? We've seen this before, and we will see it again. It results in slumlords.
Yep.
It results in derelict properties, but of course, that's the point. Zohran Mamdani wants to seize the properties. People in his administration have already said this. So you create the circumstance by which it's impossible to be a property owner, and then the government can come in and seize the asset in violation of the law.
Okay, he's 100% right on all that. But these diabolical plans of the communists, this is a huge problem, and they believe some of the most radical things ever. Watch this.
Do you support repealing Act 10?
Yes.
Universal child care?
Yes.
Free school meals?
Yes.
Guaranteed paid leave?
Yes.
Abolishing ICE?
Yes.
A one-year data center moratorium?
Yes.
Wow.
Breaking up big ag?
Yes.
Public grocery stores?
Yes.
Right to repair? Overturning Citizens United?
Yes.
A workers' bill of rights?
Yes.
A free Palestine?
Yes.
A Scott Walker statue that people can go to that are made by local artisans and craftsmen.
She's checking all the boxes, you guys. Look at this trash. She's checking all the boxes, man. All the wrong ones.
That people can slap up if they want to.
Wow.
Tentatively, yes.
Okay.
Is there anything they don't believe?
That in there. I was like, oh, we got the momentum. Like you're saying yes to everything. Maybe I can catch you.
They all believe the same stuff. And this is a big disaster for the Democrat Party. Watch.
How's he doing among Democrats in New York, his home state?
Yeah, you think that this number is bad.
Yeah, AOC is not from the Bronx. She is not from the Bronx, was not born or raised in the Bronx. That was all a lie.
What about here in his home state of New York? I tell you, these numbers scream primary challenge 2 years from now. Look at this. Okay, New York Dems who view Chuck Schumer favorably. Again, in early 2020, it was 75%, 3 in 4 Democrats. Now it is less than half.
Wow.
Less than half of Democrats in Chuck Schumer's home state of New York, 47% who view him favorably. This is part of a larger picture in which Democrats are turning against their leadership. They are specifically turning against Chuck Schumer. He is actually underwater nationally with Democrats, and even in his own home state of New York, the Empire State, he can't even reach 50% favorable rating.
Because 50% or more of the people here want communism 100% of the way, and they're sick and tired of voting for people who are hiding from the idea that they're communists.
There's been a lot of attention. One of the candidates you supported who won, who knocked off an incumbent Democrat, is Darlisa Villa-Chevalier.
She's a treasure.
Things, including calling for the abolition of prisons. Couldn't say whether or not somebody who had committed murder should be in prison, called for open borders against all deportations, including those of violent criminals.
No deportations.
Are those positions that the Democratic Party could win on nationally?
Listen to this.
I think what the Democratic Party can win on nationally
is a focus on working people. And I think that what I saw from Daria Lisa when I would walk the streets of her district was a focus on what she describes as a politics of life. Yeah. She would talk about how we have to invest in babies, not bombs. She's now going to represent what is one of the poorest districts in the United States of America. And what people in that district are exhausted by is a politics that has justified the spending of tens of billions of dollars while working people are struggling just to do the basics.
But how does abolishing prisons or having open borders?
That's the thing they do not want to talk about. But this is a radical agenda. People do not want to hide from this stuff. They want to be out in the open now about their communism. They want to wear it on their sleeve. They want to be proud of it. They want to be revolutionaries that are coming for capitalism and want to tear it down and destroy it. And this is the threat that Trump's talking about. But just before we continue, now it's time for a paid advertisement from Rumble Wallet. Question: how much control do you have over your money right now? Technology has changed, which means you, not a bank or a platform, control access to all your funds. Setup is simple. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your debit card, credit card, or bank account to get set up and be $10 in U.S. stablecoin with this promo code. This is a limited time offer, so act now. Take control of your money. Get started with Rumble Wallet today. Terms and conditions apply. See the description. The voting to abolish ICE and get rid of deportations isn't going to change. The only thing that's going to change is whether or not these candidates hide their hatred of capitalism in America any longer or not. Which, as you're about to see, means the attacks are going to get even worse. Watch.
It's under attack by a Democratic Party establishment that has folded like a house of cards, like a cheap suit, like wet cardboard, under the pressure of these communists. And it's going to be pro-Western conservatives and maybe, if they exist, a handful of pro-Western liberals who defend against these people who hate the West and hate America.
You said Mamdani was not the future of the party. Do you regret those statements?
I think the future of the party is diverse and is anchored in the fact that we've got candidates all across the country who are running to take back control of the House of Representatives so we can end the national nightmare that's taken place. Mayor Mamdani,
his life is a nightmare.
As mayor, we have a good work
because it's being challenged.
The NRCC dropped out flowers at your office this morning and condolences for the candidates that you endorsed that lost. Do you have any reaction to that?
This is why.
And Republicans spent millions of dollars trying to pick Mike Lawler's opponent, and they failed miserably. And Kate Conley, who's now the Democratic nominee, is going to take Mike Lawler out in November. And we're going to take back control of the House of Representatives.
And then finally, do you have any comment? Are you concerned at all about a primary challenge in 2 years from, a Mamdani endorsed candidate?
When you ask me a serious question, I'll give you a serious answer.
Why do you think not serious? Not taking Mamdani seriously. Listen, better put his seatbelt on because Mamdani's the leader of the party now. Mamdani and AOC. But why is this party, this Democrat party, turning full communism? Why would they be doing that?
Among Republicans, 93% are extremely or very proud. Just a single one say they have little to no pride in being an American. But look over at the Democratic side. This is where we've seen this extremely or very number. It's been taking a tumble at 27%, which is way different than the 93. You do the quick math with me here. What is that? That's a 66-point difference here in terms of extremely or very. But look at this. The little or no proud to be an American actually among Democrats eclipses is greater than the extremely very proud number. So we are just living in such a different universe if you're a Republican versus a Democrat.
And that's why you have two choices now at the ballot box. Communism, which brings starvation and poverty, or capitalism, which rescues people from starvation and poverty, and has ever since it's been allowed to happen, whereas socialism has failed everywhere it's been allowed to be tried or has been forced upon people. But you have to hate America and America's economic system to want to vote for these people.
Use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about.
I mean, he is ridiculous, but the reason he's using communism is because he knows socialism is really popular. So he's trying to turn this into communism.
The good week has been nice and hot out here. Oh yeah, I'm loving the weather.
When he knows that the ideas that social democrats are running on, that progressives are running on, universal health care, universal child care, making sure that people get paid higher wages,
Thank you,
those are incredibly popular.
Thank you.
So he's trying to attach an ideology to it, a label that isn't correct.
Okay, so the Democrat Party would have you believe that socialism
Thank
does
you,
not
man.
lead to
Thank you for the
communism, and that the
sunshine.
two.
Thank you for the sunshine super chat. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Blessings.
Couldn't be further apart, and that one is completely acceptable and completely popular, not because free stuff is popular, but because it actually works, even though they can't tell us where it works. Socialism is an economic political philosophy where the means of production are owned and regulated collectively by the public or the state rather than private individuals. Communism is a political and economic ideology that advocates for the abolition of private property and the creation of a classless, stateless society. In this system, the public owns all major resources and production. I mean, look, you're going to have a tough time differentiating these two ideologies. Is communism further to the left than socialism? Yes, but not by much. And what we're witnessing in America is that liberalism led us to progressivism, which led us to socialism, and that's only going to lead to one thing.
When you put in communist communist policies, that's what Zoran Mamdani is talking about.
He's not a communist.
It never works.
Byron Donald.
He says he's never.
I can't tell what the difference is.
Well, he can describe
what the difference is.
He can describe the differences for you. The socialism is not the same basis of communism in this country. You know that quite well.
The man wants to create government-run grocery stores. He wants free transportation, both of which are impossible to do.
Right. The people telling you that they're socialists and not communists because there's nothing to worry about, they can't tell you what the difference is. They want communism, and they're only socialists because that's the biggest step they can take in the left direction. And look, there's a fundamental problem electing people president who do not understand anything about how our country works, what made it great, and how capitalism works. Just take, for example, all of this hatred of the idea of AI data centers and high prices for things like Apple products. When you see high prices in a market because of something like RAM, that signals to companies that don't make RAM yet for smartphones that, hey, if you start making this thing and the price has doubled, you're going to be able to get into this market and make a whole bunch of money. So industry is going to come into this. High prices just signal that there are changes ahead in the economy. But what these people want to do, they want to break up these businesses. They want to cap prices. Everything they want to do is going to lead to shortages and a starvation, if you will, of parts for iPhones. And then nobody's going to have iPhones, and nobody's going to be able to go on the internet and follow people like AOC and Zoran Mamdani and complain about capitalism, because the real problem here is that they do not understand how capitalism works. They don't understand that high prices are temporary. High prices go away once everybody jumps on the bandwagon.
Yeah, that's crazy. So Mamdani got in, he just funded went to the piggy bank fund. That's crazy.
Next time they say that James is trans, we're all trans. When they say James is a gay tofu eating vegan, we're all gay tofu eating vegans. And when they say James is going to hell, we'll say we're all going to hell. Put jokes on them.
Even Steven, 47-47. And that race, to me, Texas is always fool's gold for Democrats in the long run. Do you think Democrats, though, are happy with this poll if they see 47-47?
I don't. Number one, it's likely voters, so that now is in your sort of midterm or better universe, because the turnout won't even be likely voters; it'll be less than likely voters, and previous polls showed Tallarico winning. I mean, I don't think there was a poll that had Paxton beating Tallarico before this one. So the trend is actually going to Paxton. But this is a totally different analysis than Maine. This is going to be about who do you want winning and being in control of the United States of America, Republicans or Democrats? On the generic ballot on that question, Republicans were up by 8 or 9 points.
Yes, let's put that up on the board for everyone to see. It shows Republicans control. People want Republican control at 50%, Democrat control at 44%. So if you're Republicans, you feel pretty good about that. And let me ask you one last question, because President.
Boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the nightmare scenario for Democrats going into the midterms, unfolding as they overconfidently believe that a blue wave is a certainty. And I've been warning people, and I've been saying that I don't think that it is certain that we're going to get a blue wave. Now, history would suggest that there should be a blue wave, because typically the incumbent, the party in power at the time of the midterms, they just don't do well, right? So if there's a blue wave, it's not the end of the world. That's just kind of how it historically goes. However, Democrats are historically underperforming going into the midterms versus where they otherwise should be based off history. Now, a few days ago, I just did a video about how Democrats are likely not going to do as well in the House as they think, even though I do believe that it is likely that Democrats probably will win the House. But again, it's not going to be a blue wave, in my opinion. It might be a blue trickle. They might barely take the House, but that would be a severe disappointment for Democrats, again, considering how historically they're supposed to win like 40 plus seats, right? That's what's supposed to happen, okay? So we're going to see. But in this video, we're going to talk about the Senate, because right now Republicans are favored to retain control of the Senate. And part of the reason why is because Democrats have decided to get in bed with far-left radical Marxist lunatics, okay? And for whatever reason, Democrats don't think that this is a problem for their party in general elections, again, when the party is in bed with communist.
Your party is in a bit of a moment right now following some elections here in New York. 3 candidates who identify as Democratic Socialist won their primary campaigns, several of them to oust the more moderate establishment members of Congress in their races. Do you think that's good? Are their victories good for your party?
I think what's good is that there are Democrats who are standing up and fighting, that there are Democrats who are standing up and talking about and doing something about addressing the high cost of things. Affordability is an issue that everybody is feeling all across the country. And any Democrat that is standing up and speaking out about that, coming up with solutions for that, and importantly, doing it in a manner that is focused on fighting what Donald Trump is trying to do to raise prices on people, I think those are the people who are winning. So I'm not suggesting that I had one candidate or another in any of these races. I'm just suggesting that that is the recipe for winning in 2026 and I think beyond.
Yeah. So J.B. Pritzker, the far left governor of Illinois, the same guy who is responsible for losing the Chicago Bears, by the way, right, ignorantly and naively believes that the key for Democrats to win is to embrace far-left radical socialism going into the midterms. Now, I personally believe that this is wrong. I think this is a miscalculation. I think that Democrats underestimate just how much that is a turnoff to regular, normal, sane people. And I think they're going to end up losing races that they otherwise should win, like, for example, out in Michigan, where you have a radical far-left lunatic who is likely going to win the Democratic primary. And I think that it's likely that he's going to lose the general election, again, if he makes it out of the Democrat primary, which it looks like as of right now, he will.
They have substantive questions and concerns about the Democratic Socialist position.
I think one of the frustrations, and look, the real red scare we should be talking about is that Donald Trump is still president. Donald Trump is still doing things like taking us to wars we shouldn't be fighting.
And they will probably say you hang around with Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker has said things that are virulently anti-American, they would say, and anti-Semitic. Do you have any regrets about Hassan Piker?
Well,
you know that's going to be an issue.
Major, I'm hanging out with you.
Oh, hello.
I love everything you said. Right. I'm sure you said some things I disagree with. You said some things I agree with. It tends to be in the real world. We hold people accountable for what they said, not what somebody around them said. And it's this funny gotcha game that Democrats love to play and Republicans love to play. which I think people are sick and tired of in politics.
So no answer about this embrace of him. Do you think people are making too much or too little about this?
Look, it's a pretty crazy thing. So Hassan Piker was invited to stream from the DNC in 2024. We had a whole debate about whether or not the vice president should have gone on Rogan. The idea that we're going to tie people together and say, well, guilt by association, so is just not in keeping with the way most of us think about the world. I'm sitting on a panel with a very diverse group of people. Did I vet all of you before I came and sat here because one of you might have said something I disagree with? I just think it's a ridiculous way to think about politics.
You're running for office, which is why you're in the hot seat.
I'm happy to be in the hot seat, but
this is why you're being vetted.
And then there's the matter of ICE, an agency that really should not exist.
Damn.
Because I don't know about you all, but I could find.
Look at them clapping. Idiot.
I could find a lot better uses for the $252 billion that we have spent to put masked men on our streets. ICE is not about immigration. ICE is not about the southern border. ICE is about normalizing paramilitary force on our streets. There is no reforming. There is no retraining. There is only abolishing ICE. It's funny, they've taken to calling me dangerous. Now, I wonder why you would call somebody from my background with my faith dangerous. You heard that before? And it's interesting. You ask the folks living in these communities, the grandma whose grandchild finally got a pair of glasses, if I'm dangerous. Ask the folks living in Southwest who finally saw somebody stand up to the polluters in their neighborhood, if I'm dangerous. Ask the parents whose kids were in Detroit public schools when we made sure that there wasn't lead in those schools, if I'm dangerous. Ask the folks who got Narcan that saved their lives, whether or not I'm dangerous. Ask the folks who got a medical debt relief check if I'm dangerous. I'm not dangerous if you need government to work for you.
That's crazy and all. That's good that you had a good background, but you still dangerous. Carmelo Anthony had a 3.7 GPA. He stabbed somebody. Now he in jail. Come on, man. You are dangerous.
But I tell you what, I sure am dangerous if you're one of those folks who's a corporation or a special interest or a politician who does their bidding, who's stopping government from working for you. So yeah, if you're Chuck Schumer, I'm dangerous. If you're AIPAC, I'm dangerous. If you're a corporate PAC, I'm dangerous. If you're Blue Cross Blue Shield CEO, I'm pretty damn dangerous. If you're a DTE, I for sure am dangerous. But if you're somebody who needs government to work for you, I aim to be the best friend you ever had.
Yeah, so as of right now, the Michigan Senate seats belong to two Democrats. If this guy is the candidate, I think it's likely that he's going to lose, right? He's going to lose a race that Democrats otherwise should win, okay? It's stuff like that that I think is going to ruin the blue wave. However, Republicans tend to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And one thing I want to warn Republicans about going into these general elections is that if Republicans are going to make the midterms about Israel and the fact that these people don't like Israel, that is a surefire way to lose. Okay, I'm sorry. Right, I'm sorry. I don't want to hear from Republicans about how these people are anti-Semitic, how they hate Israel. We all know that, right? But it's not going to work, right? I'm just sick and tired of it, right? Because that line of attack doesn't work. It doesn't work. I don't think people care that much that they don't like Israel, okay? Now, there are certain people that do care, right? But I think a vast majority of people don't really care that much, okay? To be honest with you, right? I think that the real line of attack is that these people are radical, far-left, Marxist lunatics who are economically illiterate. They want open borders. They believe in a far-left social agenda. They're anti-white. I personally think that those are better ways of criticizing these radical lunatics than focusing on Israel, okay, and anti-Semitism, because ultimately their hate for Israel just comes from Marxism, right? That's why they don't like Israel, is because of Marxism, right? That's their whole thing, okay? And I'm not saying they're not
conservative common sense. No problem, bro. Catch you later, man. We got to do a live show, man.
criticisms of
Israel. Either record a live show or record, man. You got to do it.
Outside of the Marxist criticism of Israel. I'm just saying that if Republicans are going to make the midterms about that, that's a surefire way to lose. Make it about the fact that they're economically illiterate, they're Marxists, they believe in open borders. Make it about policy, specifically policy having to do with domestic issues, okay? That's what you should make it about. If Republicans decide they want to make this about Israel, it's not going to work out well, okay? So that's my only caveat. But if Republicans actually play their cards right and campaign the way that they should against these individuals, they're going to lose, right? They should lose because they're radically far left, okay? Michigan is not a far left state, okay? Michigan is a center left state that sometimes can lean right, okay? It has the potential to lean right to go Republican, but, recent history would suggest that, yeah, it's a left-leaning state, but it has the potential for a Republican to win, and we should be winning these races, okay? Again, if Democrats are running far-left lunatics, and that's the theory. The theory is that Democrats are going to lose winnable races because their candidates are too far left. And the only way to win a Democrat primary, because their base of voters are socialists, is to be a far-left lunatic, which does not play well in a general election. So, with that being said, we have some bombshell polling showing that Republicans are actually surging in some of these key states, these key races, okay? And that is pouring cold water on the Democrats' hopes to win the Senate, aka the blue wave, because there is no blue wave without the Democrats winning the House and winning the Senate, okay? Democrats barely winning the House and Republicans maintaining the Senate. That's not a blue wave, right? That's a blue trickle, okay? And that would be a very disappointing outcome for Democrats. Basically, a small W for Republicans, to be honest with you. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the latest polling on the Senate races, which, again, do not look well for Democrats.
Okay, so what's the simple math here? Democrats need a net gain of four Senate seats to regain control of the upper chamber in Congress. And right now, the math, simply put, isn't there for them. That is the picture. And I want you, it's just, it's a math problem. It is a math problem. 2026 Senate poll margins. Okay, Democrats need a net gain of 4. Okay, you get 1 in North Carolina. But then you got a bunch of red on the screen. Now, these are close races, but you got a tie in Texas. Then it's +2 in Iowa for the Republicans, +2 in Alaska, and then +3, if you can make the circle there, in Ohio.
Now, I will say this. Republicans tend to underperform the polls, right? So that's one thing that has led me to believe that, again, blue trickle is probably the most likely outcome, not a blue wave, is because despite the polls, Republicans tend to underperform in these polls, because we know that the polls are basically rigged in favor of Democrats, right? And they overperform when it comes time for the election. So we're going to see if that scenario plays out. I'm saying this because, again, look at this Texas race. It's basically tied between James Talafrico and Ken Paxton. I don't think it's actually really tied, right? I think the reality is that it is likely that Ken Paxton is going to overperform the polls. But, again, we're going to see. Regardless, again, this is not a good scenario for Democrats, again, as CNN is laying out here. The math ain't mathing here.
So that gets you 1 seat, but of course you need 4 seats. And on this board, red, close races and a tie. You're at 1. You're not yet to 4.
I mean, the good news for Democrats might be they're close in Texas, Iowa, Alaska, and Ohio. But again, it needs to be 4 of these that are blue in order for them to retake it. Now, there's one state that you did not put up here.
No.
That's Maine.
That is Maine. Maine, which we've had a few Senate polls the last couple of days. And what do you see here? Even in Maine, a state that Kamala Harris easily won back in 2024. Look, the New York Times has Platt in her head by 2, but that, of course, is well within the margin of error. That is among likely voters. Fox News, on the other hand, has Susan Collins, the incumbent, up by 3 among all voters. So even in Maine, you have a race that, simply put, is way too close to call. So really, on the mathematical march to 4 seats, there's really only 1 seat at this point that Democrats can look like they can count on. They'll probably win one of these other seats, but again, that gets you only to 2, and you need 4.
Yeah, but see, again, this is something that Harry Enton is forgetting to mention, right? And I'm kind of surprised he's not mentioning this specifically about Maine. This is a great example of what I'm talking about when I say that Republicans tend to underperform. And Susan Collins is a great example of that, right? Again, she's one of these so-called moderate Republicans, right? She's Trump deranged, right? She doesn't really like Trump. She's the type of Republicans that Democrats claim they like, right? But again, they got the chance to show us whether or not they are in bed with communists or the so-called moderate anti-Trump Republican, right? They have a chance to show us what they really believe out in Maine. But historically speaking, Susan Collins has underperformed, right? I believe the last time that she was up for re-election, she was underperforming in the polls by almost double digits, and she ended up winning, right? So again, it is likely that her margin is much larger than what is being displayed here by the polls, because again, she tends to underperform in the polls by almost about double digits. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that these polls, if they are underestimating Republican support, again, this is a disaster scenario, a nightmare scenario for Democrats unfolding, specifically in the Senate.
I think the Democrats would hopefully they look better given the war in Iran, given inflationary concerns. The question is their high water mark, or can they?
And all of that is going away, right? All of that is going. Oil prices are falling. Again, right now it looks like the war is on ice, right? We're going to see how long it lasts. Yeah, I already told you guys there's going to be volatility, right? Yeah, there are going to be some attacks here and there, but I think that both sides generally kind of want this to be over, right? How we get there is the question. But again, if you pay attention to oil prices, that tells you everything you need to know about the direction that it's headed in. Clearly, we're probably not going to escalate the conflict unless something crazy happens, because again, oil prices are falling. So again, we're going to see what happens. But this is what I was saying, right? I've been saying that, look, if we can get oil prices down, if inflation starts to fall again, because again, inflation is basically being caused by the oil prices being elevated, right? So we know that energy kind of flows through to everything, right? Everything requires energy. So that's why you're seeing the inflationary pressures, rise again. Again, not nearly as bad as what we saw in the Joe Biden, right? And keep in mind, before the Iran war, inflation was almost at the Fed target. I think it was around 2.3% or something like that. So if it can get back down to that level going into the midterms, it's going to be looking real good for Republicans, to be honest with you. So again, we're going to see. The main thing I think is the economy. There's some time, okay, for things to get better going into the midterms. And if they do, that's going to take away one of the key advantages that Democrats had going into the midterms.
Grow from here. They will need to grow. What are some of the reasons why they might be having a little bit of a harder time?
The real reason why they're having a little bit of a harder time is these are red states, right? With the exception of Maine, right? These were all states that Donald Trump won back in 2024. And look at this. The median in the 6 key Senate races. Look at this. The generic Senate ballot lead for Republicans. Look at that. In the median state is 6 points. And of course, the median right down the middle is what? 3.5, right? So you need to win states in which the generic Senate ballot lead is Republican +6, and then say the Dem Party is too far left. Look at this, 53%. So these are states that are just very hard to win, because bottom line is what is holding them back is the fundamentals. And when you put it all together, Johnny B, and you look at the prediction markets, which I think really can sort of put this all together, chance to win the Senate. The Republican chances, as you noted, John, the environment is getting a little bit better for Republicans. On May 1, Republicans had a 51% chance to take back the Senate. Now it's a 59% chance. Look, Democrats have a shot here. There are seats on the table, but the fundamentals are against them. And that right now, they're only one of the seats where they need to be. The mathematical problem is there for Democrats at this point. They simply put, have a statistical math problem.
Yeah, again, the math ain't mathing. And one of the reasons why, which CNN failed to mention here, is the fact that 53% of people claim that the Democrat Party is too far left. And when you're running these radically left lunatics in some of these swing states, that's just not going to play well in the general election, right? I mean, that's the theory. So again, this is what I'm talking about when I say that this is bad for the Democrat Party. And, it's good for Republicans, bad for the country, right? If these people actually win, if they actually win in some of these swing states, that is terrible, absolutely terrible for the country. But it is likely that they're going to lose because they're too far left. And that's where we're at, right? Democrats forget that the key to winning elections at the national level, right, gaining control of Congress, of the White House, is winning swing states, right? This is what John Fetterman has been warning Democrats about. He's been saying, look, we got to win swing states. Like the elections aren't decided by people in California, in New York, these far left states. No, they're decided by people in North Carolina and Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania and these swing states that can go either way, right? That is how elections are decided, right? In regards to who's going to gain power and control over the House, over the Senate, over the presidency, and Democrats are forgetting that. You can't get in bed with these communists and expect to win a state like, Ohio, or expect to win in states that are more right-leaning, right? It just doesn't make sense. That's just not how things work, right? This is not how stuff works. So with that being said, again, we're going to see, as of right now, the hopes of a blue wave are trickling away, right? They're trickling away because of
shebang. It was Amy Bach and then this guy, and he had all the access to all the Somalians. Well, he was hiding out for the last several years in Somalia trying to avoid detection because, we were onto him. It says neither U.S. nor Somali officials have disclosed how Idlay was located. However, the Department of Justice said his arrest was the result of Ilhan Omar's own finances are super sus. Okay, we all know that. We've discussed that at length. I mean, you don't come out with 3 different sets of records and think that you don't come out with 3 sets of different records and not think that we're not onto you somehow, some way. This was the original one, right? Where she's telling us she's worth up to $5 million with that winery, the winery that has no wine, up to $25 million with the consulting company that really just strikes me as a lobbying firm, which is why I get back to this idea. If this guy that they just apprehended in Somalia, okay, he's a bad dude. He's been apprehended, and I'm kind of wondering if he, who, allegedly was on the take, let's be quite fair in what we're delivering, allegedly. I think it's a little more than allegedly, but, he'll have his day in court. Anyway, he is apparently taking all this money in, somewhere around $5 million they've estimated. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more. And he's doing so under the guise of various consulting firms, etc. All while Ilhan's hubby, Timmy Minette, the guy who was running all the cannabis companies that kept, winding up in trouble. And
she got a white husband, but she'll tell you about white supremacy. White man bad, but yeah, she married to a white man. Don Lemon the same way, married to a white man, but tell you about white supremacy. White supremacy is because of y'all. Y'all married to them. Y'all having sex with these people. We good over here. That's crazy, man. Insane. AOC. I think her boyfriend is a white man. Lori Lightfoot, her partner, a white woman. Insane.
he and his partner kept getting accused of fraud by their investors. And then they would get into these legal issues and they'd say, we want our money back. And they'd say, we don't have it. And one of the reasons in one particular case, and I credit the Washington Free Beacon with this reporting, is they found it. Apparently, in one of the lawsuits, the guy who's her husband's business partner, Will Haler is his name. He said, well, actually, we can't return anything to you because all of it is being frozen by the Office of Foreign Assets Control under Joe Biden's Treasury.
Whoa.
So you've got the arm of the Treasury Department that's out there investigating terrorist financing, freezing her hubby's business assets. And this is Biden's Treasury Department, not Trump. So, whoa, I mean, if that's not a smoking gun, I don't know what is. Anyway, they said that they felt that there was some danger here in some way, shape, or form because she had, according to the DOJ, a little too many interactions with a, quote, foreign national. We've talked about that before, and I suspect that could have been related to the guy who's the president of Somalia who came to Minneapolis and was campaigning on her behalf, telling all the Somalis, you know, a vote for Ilhan is so important because she doesn't care about Ilhan. She doesn't care about the United States of America. She doesn't care about Minneapolis. She only cares about Somalia. So maybe it's, you know, like if you're going to justify this in your head, okay, we're going to steal $250 million, assuming that she was trying to justify it. We're going to steal it and it's all okay because somehow it's going to wind up back in the hands of Somalis and Somalia. I wonder, I mean, because I try and understand the rationale of anybody who would be involved in any of this. And then why isn't she doing more to actually come forward and say, hey, look at all of my emails. Look at everything I got. I want to come clean. She hasn't done that at all. In fact, she has been stonewalling. And that's a whole problem, too. So, yeah, they apparently, according to he and his accountant, there's some kind of email trail that was going back and forth. And the Wall Street Journal found this one. It claimed he had 7.9 million in assets at Rose Lake Capital. That was the private venture capital firm that he and the other guy who was like getting their accounts frozen by Treasury for suspected terrorist financing. You can't make it up. They were claiming that they had 7.9 million. What? And that the thing was worth 25 million.
Crazy.
And the winery was, nearly 5. I mean, this is bonkers. So she's out there paving the way for less regulation, less oversight, so that the kids can get their food, right? And the Somalis can get their money.
About the kids, that's what she said.
According to prosecutors, this guy that we just apprehended in Somalia, number 2 in the whole shebang, he was disguising the money that he was getting through consulting fees. According to prosecutors, Idle recruited operators into the scheme and collected bribes and kickbacks, often disguised as consulting fees and funneled through shell companies. This is the story, as I told you, just out in Al Jazeera. He is accused of setting up his own meal site under the names of stand-in owners, falsely claiming they were serving thousands of children a day and inventing supplier firms to bill the government for food that was never delivered. But I'm struck by that consulting fee thing and funneling it all through shell companies. You see, this is what we're getting into, of course, with Ilhan Omar and her third set of financial records, because now she's trying to get us to believe, by the way, not the first, not the second, but the third. Like, this has never happened before, ever. Like, you've never had somebody come out and say, gee, I think I'm worth 30 million. And then say, oh, oopsie daisy, I'm now worth 97,000. Like, that's never actually happened. So, I don't think you can blame this all on the accountant. I really don't. Like, how would she have signed off on that? You don't think you're going to ask your husband, gee, honey, we're worth 30 mil? Boy, was I smart to marry you, right? No, I mean, part of that was, I suspect, her willingness to give him a big pay raise when he worked for her as her campaign manager. Because you see, when he was just the BF, he was making $800,000, which is a heck of a lot for a campaign manager for a little campaign out in Minneapolis. Yeah, that was a big amount of money. And then she paid him nearly $3 million. You realize if you pay into the pot for Ilhan's campaign, and she's paying her campaign manager, her hubby, nearly $3 million, then you're just paying Ilhan. But maybe you're paying Ilhan because you want to be part of feeding our future so that you can make a few cool $1 million on the side too, like all your other Somali friends out there in Minneapolis. So now we're supposed to believe he only raked in $200 last year? What, does he go quiet in between campaigns, Ilhan?
Right. What the hell?
Is he off the books in between? Whoa. It's just bonkers. Like, and I don't believe any of it. And neither does Comer. And neither does the vice president or Stephen Miller. They're investigating this. And I can guarantee you know what? Our Treasury Secretary, he was not born yesterday. Scott Besson is all over this too. And I bet you anything the IRS is, they can't tell us. But one day you're going to wake up. And we're going to be here, and it's going to be lights out for Ilhan Omar, I suspect, because I just don't think this is clean, okay? I don't know. Again, innocent until proven guilty, but this does not feel clean, ladies and gentlemen. No way, no how. Let's go back over to Comer. He said this about last week, I think, on Fox.
Do you think Ilhan Omar is in a lot of trouble? She's got that big question mark on how her net worth jumped up to, at least 6 million and then went back down to zero over a 1-year period.
So are you saying that Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota, that she was getting federal money and feeding it into these corrupt Somali networks, her cronies?
I think one of the projects she requested proved to be a fraudulent Somali scheme.
Yeah. So the question is, how many more were there that maybe we don't even know about yet? See, this is why it's so important to get these financial records. It is so important to get the emails. And again, remember, Amy Bach, some of that came out in the trial. It actually didn't come out it was part of the evidence and part of the exhibition. We didn't get to see it. And the reason we didn't get to see it was because they were still looking for this guy. Well, this guy is now in custody. This guy has now been found. So now we're going to probably, next stage here, he's going to get his day in court and all of that's going to come out. And what I want to know is whether Ilhan was full on signing off on fraud. And then I want to know, was she getting paid to sign off on fraud?
Of course.
Through consulting fees with her husband's quote unquote venture capital firm, which lied right on its website, claiming they did somewhere around 60 some odd billion dollars in deals. No way, no how. Lie number one. They said they operated in 81 different countries. That may not be a lie. Maybe they really were operating in 81 different countries. Really.
SpaceX has made me a trillionaire. Isn't that neat, Mr. Sprinkles? You can say that again. Do you need something? I hear you have $1 trillion. Yes, I am a trillionaire, but I don't actually have $1 trillion. I want it! There's no money. Give it to me!
Uh-oh.
Hand over the trillion, pale face! Come back with my money!
Where are you going with our $1 trillion, comrade? I keep telling you, there is no money. He's hiding it.
I bet he swallowed it! Let's cut him open and take it!
I don't have $1 trillion. All that wealth is in my rocket company. He said the $1 trillion is in his rocket. Let's go get it.
Let's start smashing stuff until we find the trillion!
How you doing, Sarah? Good afternoon, Sarah. Good afternoon.
Good thinking there, Mr. Sprinkles.
Mr.
Those people were
Sprinkles.
scary, but luckily they were extremely stupid. Now let's go swim in the money vault. The $1 trillion is all mine.
Left your name on my phone.
See any wealth here to redistribute?
No, just red rocks.
Rats.
Like, share, and subscribe, everybody. I'm not done. Hold on.
It was late 2026, and political conflict was coming to a head. The right was not giving any ground, and the left decided it was time to take action.
We had to do something. The Republicans were using every trick in the book, mainly voting to take over our country. It was finally time for war.
The left began to quickly make preparations to take the country by force.
It's not easy to start a war. It involves a lot of talking on the phone, which gives many of us anxiety.
An initial target was settled on, a lazy suburb that served as a symbol of the bourgeoisie and capitalism. But this small neighborhood was not caught by surprise.
Doreen's son goes to one of those fruity colleges on the West Coast. We got word from him war was coming.
The invading army descended on the small neighborhood, but the attack did not go as planned.
In the city, we're used to being able to burn down a target and no one does anything.
I guess it's different in the suburbs, though.
The suburbanites had an ace up their sleeves.
Yeah, it's AI. Babylon B. It's AI.
One of the big
It's
issues
Babylon
is
B.
how we
They
hate
cool as
guns,
hell.
but
They
the right
funny.
loves them. I guess none of us considered how big a disadvantage that would put us in a civil war.
A single warning shot was fired, causing half the invading force to have a panic attack. The rest fled for their lives. The Second American Civil War was over.
Everyone said I was crazy owning 6 AR-15s. And I guess they had a point.
since we had a full civil war and I barely needed the one. The left signed a statement of unconditional surrender. The right was now fully in control of the country.
As part of the surrender, we technically own California. We're seeing if it's possible to just push it off into the sea.
Many of the losing combatants fled to the far north. Starvation was rampant among them from lack of access to DoorDash. Still, not everyone saw what happened as a total loss for the left.
I think we won by showing we will stand up to Republicans. But haven't you been exiled to Canada? It's great! I love it here!
Because you'll have the car that we're returning. Oh, yeah. You know what? That doesn't make any sense. You're right. Yeah, and the fact that the GPS is taking us to the Alamo, car rental return on a route that takes 5 hours also doesn't make any sense.
Oh, wait. That last part makes sense now.
We went to the wrong Alamo?
Oops. I must have forgotten to put car rental in the GPS. I think we're in San Antonio.
I'm gonna miss my flight.
I'm sorry. But hey, haven't you always wanted to visit the Alamo and learn about the heroic last stand these Texas heroes made here?
Well, I guess it does sound kind of interesting, but I'm ready to get back to my country. I miss the Kardashians. We'll get to the airport, and I'm sure you can get on another flight. I just need to stop here and use the bathroom really quick. Of course you do. You haven't used the bathroom in 10 minutes. I'm not...
It ends.
I'll stop that video because it's a part 2. It's a 1 and 2 version of it. That's the second version. There's no point in me playing the second version without the first. So next time I play the first one, then I'll play the second one. But other than that, let's continue.
When you do communism right, it works perfectly and everyone loves it.
And it only took 200 million starving to get here.
That's less than half as many as we thought.
There has been another terrorist attack with 33 dead. The American government has decided not to do anything about it since we probably deserved it.
It sure is great that abortion is now free and available for everyone everywhere.
One with the baby picture in the background.
But it's too bad that there aren't any babies to abort since we outlawed being a heterosexual.
Murdering those families was wrong, but you're an immigrant and you probably just didn't know any better. Plus, we shut down all prisons. You're free to go.
This is wrong! You need to lock him up!
How dare you question our compassion? Execute that man immediately! I found more letters we need to add to the acronym.
It's already so large, it's throwing off the rotation of the Earth. If we add any more letters, we'll die.
Then we die! Everyone just stay in line and walk through the scanner. It's going to check how dark your skin is to see how many benefits you get. If I were you, I wouldn't bother. The U.S. has run out of money.
Can't we just murder more billionaires and confiscate their wealth?
There are no more left. I'm afraid someone in our country is actually going to have to get a job and work.
There you go, you guys. It's Babylon Beef for you. I appreciate you guys. Well, I've been live streaming for 3 hours and 45 minutes, you guys. I really appreciate it. You guys are a blessing. I'll be back tomorrow in the morning for you. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the all button. Thank you, guys. Once again, it's been 3 hours and 45 minutes. I got to get something to eat. You guys are a blessing. I'll be back.